What up, though? One Pride. This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, a podcast where one pride goes worldwide. My name is Antony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey, which can only mean one thing. It's time for your weekly dose of college knowledge. Yes, it is the College Football Podcast Media Days, and as said on the tin, it's a very simple show today. We are at that time of year, right? We are 30 days out from having college football back from week 0 arriving, and we are hearing from all the coaches, the players, the media. We're getting some pre-season predictions. We're getting some little tidbits into teams' camps and stuff like that. This is the fun part of the year where we start hearing everything coming out now, and of course it's the first day of NFL training camps as well. We've had like 3 ACL tears already, and pray to God nothing's happened with the Lions yet. It's all kicking off now in both college and the NFL.
Yeah. I saw my first way too early NFL mock draft today. I was like, that is eager. Someone's very eager.
That's it, right? You don't even know who's going to declare yet. We are 4 or 5 months away from.
I was happy with who the Lions got.
Who did we get?
We got Kelly Jones, the Mississippi State corner.
Oh, nice.
6.
Oh, nice.
A divisional round loser, I think.
Yeah, well, we don't like that. Maybe a bit, or maybe it's a trade up from 32 after being Super Bowl winners. Who knows? But the 6'4" corner, I'll take that.
Yeah, like I said, I've seen college football. I've just seen Ari Vasserman's college football playoff prediction. We've got playoff predictions out. We've got rankings. Like I say, we've got positional rankings. Like I say, we've got head coach hot lists. Like I say, I also saw we've got our first NCAA upsetting people by suspending a Tennessee player.
Oh yes, we got Arian Carter getting suspended for 2 games for
the weirdest. I've never seen anyone get suspended for that.
He's paid for his own flight somewhere.
No, I think he used NIL or an NFL agent paid for a return flight to their practice facility for a pre-draft meeting.
Yeah.
And he decided to return to college.
Yeah.
I'm guessing because he didn't pay for it himself. Has been suspended for the first 2 games of the season.
Yeah.
That's the rule. He was going to declare, didn't declare, and now gets suspended.
Yeah. That
what rule is broken?
No, it's really, really odd.
Accepting a gift, but what, do all players pay for their own flights?
But it's technically accepting a gift from the NFL, not from college. Like if that was for like a recruiting visit to another school, I kind of get that. But I
don't understand what the suspension's are about. Actually reading into it, it feels very vague, and everyone seems quite confused by it.
Yeah, but the whole NCAA is back. You know we're back now. When they're out there making terrible decisions, it's good fun. I hope everyone is doing well. See, Mile Marker is in the chat. He goes out in the yard, guys. Going to be a great pod, I'm sure. I see some kind of music, but now some sort of tone in the stream. Hopefully, that was my phone going off, is the music that you heard. I tried to mute it, but my phone's in the other room, so hopefully that is sort of done and dusted now. You say we've got some RF interference. Let me just check very quickly, just to make sure there's nothing funny going on. But my phone was going off a minute ago, so... that was what the music was. But there shouldn't be any more interference going on. Where are we at? Music that you heard. I tried to mute it, but my phone... No, we seem to be alright. I think we're all good now. Or maybe it is the fan on my PC. We'll see. I'll move my mic away a little bit from here because, yeah, it's warm over here, folks. So, the fan's running at overdrive on the PC tower at the moment.
Who Ari Vasserman's playoff prediction is. It's bold.
Oh, go on then.
Number 1 in his rankings is Notre Dame.
Oh, wow.
He has them as the number 1 team in the nation.
Oh.
His G5 team is UNLV at 12.
Yeah.
Like I said, his national title is 8 Oregon, defeated by number 3 Texas.
So he's on the arch train then.
Yes, Oregon beating Ole Miss, number 1 Notre Dame, and Miami to get to a title game.
Ooh, that's
number 1 Notre Dame. He is all aboard CJ Carr. Like, I've never seen anybody that high.
So yeah, I know, because I was looking at the return in production figures today, and Notre Dame has the highest return in production in the nation. They're 72% of their team is coming back. It's like 80% on defense and like just under 70 on offense. So I think he's going with continuity there. Certainly it does help when you're not losing too many of your players to the draft and whatnot. It was a quiet year for Notre Dame. So, that's a fun one. I don't know if it'll happen, but that's a fun one. I like it when people are a bit bold and brash. So that's good fun. We'll have to have a look through some of those at some point. But as I mentioned, we're here today to chat about media days. So obviously, before the season happens, all teams start sending representatives to one big media day. Head coaches, players, etc. They get the media to be able to ask them about what's going on in camp, all the issues that are going around the teams, etc. And then the media themselves generally will poll themselves over what they believe is going to happen during the season in terms of teams, where they're going to finish, the power rankings, etc. So we're going to take a look through the conferences one by one. We're going to do the group of 5 first, and then depending on how long the show is, if it's going too long, then we'll do the power 4 next week. So I know the Big Ten is still in the midst of theirs at the minute. I know the head coaches are speaking today, so we might wait until we've got all the information out for that one. But it's just kind of some tidbits for you to know about the teams, what the media think about the rankings this year, and we can give our comments on that. Do the housekeeping quickly first. Roar of the Lions UK Discord. If you want in on that, then just let us know. We'll send you across a link for it. Main podcast, we had an interview with Jeremy Reisman from Pride of Detroit the other day. If you've not checked that out, please do so. Matt Poole did a very good job with that one. Don't forget to like and subscribe to everything. You know the drill by now. We're part of Lions Nation Unite. Don't forget to back that. And yeah, we're monetized for all that great stuff. If you want to help us that way, great. But first and foremost, we just love having you in the building chatting football. Obviously, if you have any questions or anything during the evening, just whack them in the comments and we will answer them as we go. Right, some bits of news to go through first before we get to the media days. And Ryan, the buzzword this week around college football is all about patches. Little 4-inch patches on teams' shirts. Now, obviously, for those who don't know, in January this year, the rules were changed on logos and patches that teams could have on their shirts. Initially, it was sort of restricted to like the team's uniform maker, you know, Nike, Puma, I don't know why I'm putting them together, Adidas, all these types of companies were able to put their logos on, but that was it. That was all that you were allowed. But now the rules have changed, and now you can, in terms of putting patches onto the shirts, it's now open as to who can sponsor your shirts and have a patch put on your shirt. So what the new rules are, you may have up to 2 additional commercial logos that may appear on uniforms and apparel in pre-season and regular season play. These logos can be, they're limited to 4 square inches. You may have 1 additional commercial logo on your equipment, and then the conference championships allow an additional uniform apparel logo. So basically, you get 2 on your uniforms during the season, 3 if you make a championship game, and you can have 4 altogether if you make a championship game, and you have 1 on your equipment as well. And this is basically a new way for athletic departments to raise funds for their respective teams. You know, in this age of NIL, got to find more money to pay the bills and pay the players. Not much had been done about this until recently. Obviously, the Big 12 signed their deal with Monster Energy, but that is a conference-wide agreement, so all the teams are involved on this. That is worth about $20 million annually. That is for football, basketball, all sports basically in the Big 12. And Big 12 schools are expected to receive about $1 million each per year. It's not just for patches, it's for other sponsoring and stuff like that. But yeah, that is the deal the Big 12 signed. But the Big 10 have been dropping some big deals this week. Firstly, Michigan State, they came to an agreement with the MSU Federal Credit Union. That is reportedly $40 million over 10 years, so about $4 million per year. Illinois have created a deal with the Busey Bank, not Gary Busey as some people think it is, but yeah, the Busey Bank. That is $30 million over 5 years, or about $6 million per year. But the super brands got involved this week. First of all, Ohio State. They had a deal with Chase Morgan, $17 million per year. For that was the benchmark of the time. Like Big 12 teams all earning $1 million a year. Ohio State are earning more per year than the lot of them combined. But then that was just blown out the water by Notre Dame, who have agreed a deal with SoFi, which is between 18 to 20 million per year, as we are probably going to see more and more of these appear, right? This is obviously part of the NIL era now. Teams need more money. Teams are going to find new ways to make revenue, and patches seem to be it. But some of these numbers that are coming in are eye-watering and are just going to, lengthen that gap in the portal even more with these teams who can now afford even bigger deals.
I saw somewhere that the Ohio State team is making more from Chase Bank than, I think there's an NBA team that has a sponsorship with them, and they're earning more than them. That just tells you about the Buckeyes brand. But as far as I suppose by sponsorship goes, it's not very obnoxious, like you say. They're the size, like you say, a thumbprint. You can't even see them, like you say, most games. A lot of it will be, like you say, the jackets, the coaches on the sideline, like you say, the equipment, more than you'll see it on the game. And I don't know, I like to see this will level the playing field, because even, like, say, the G5 schools, the bigger ones should be able to get some big companies, local companies, like I said, a lot of them are going to be, like, say, credit unions, banks, big chain restaurants, like you see, you probably get, like, In-N-Out Burger, stuff like that, like, say, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the least devious ways that teams can make money right now. Like I say, they ain't breaking any rules. And, well, I mean, yeah, MLS to it, but to us, it's just normal to have an obnoxious, ugly brand that's paying a lot of your club's wages.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy, these numbers are, and it was quite funny because Ohio State did this, and then a load of Notre Dame fan accounts go, "Oh, we'd never desecrate our jersey with logos and stuff like that," just for the very next day for their team to do it and be like, "Oh, okay, whatever." Everyone's desecrating their jerseys
just
now.
Start, though, like you say, when will it end?
Yeah, like the SEC teams will get involved soon. You would figure some of the other powerhouses in the Big Ten.
The pants, shoes, gloves, like say, they'll just be walking billboards.
They'll look like NASCARs when they're said and done. Like NASCAR's just got tons of sponsors and stuff on there, and their cars look crazy. But yeah, that's the way college football is going. As long as it goes to good
stuff, like I suppose probably this is not going to players.
No, it's not.
Scholarships, rebuilding the stadium, maintenance.
Yeah, it's money for the athletic departments. I think, like players,
it's going to do good.
From what was said about it, in terms of the players, it's a sponsorship asset for the AD. I think they could probably use it to sponsor NIL, etc. And I think part of the deals include money specifically for NIL, so I think a certain chunk of this 17 million or 20 million, whatever that JP is going to sponsor Ohio State, will go towards the NIL. So technically it does involve them, but yeah, they don't actually...
Players that can't get their own NIL, that's just not...
Yeah, I think it's just for the ADs to sponsor themselves a bit and to get more money, because it'll go out towards NIL anyhow with some of these big teams. So it is what it is. But yeah, we're probably going to see more and more of these. So if you start seeing all the patch news coming up, this is why it's the latest in money-making schemes for athletic departments to keep up in this age of NIL. Only other thing I wanted to mention, you talked about playoffs and way too early playoff predictors and that. BFF put out their article this week saying of the 8 teams who could make their first college football playoff appearance this year, they listed USC, BYU, Louisville, Florida, Missouri, Utah, Houston, and then they put a group of 6 representative in there. They've got Navy potentially making it the first ever service team to do so. Obviously we've got our predictions and stuff coming up, right, but out of those 8, Who do you think might be the one who breaks that glass ceiling this year and makes it in for the first time?
Be BYU or Utah. I feel like the Big 12 is there for the taking right now.
Yeah.
Arizona State is going to drop off, lost its QB. Like say, Texas Tech has lost its QB. Like say, there's going to be a lot of turnover. Like say, programs have had a lot of shift, some big draft classes. So yeah, one of the three Big 12 teams has got the biggest chance. Like say, I expect to see a new champion this year.
Yeah, I'd be throwing Houston in that conversation. I think they've done really well in terms of their transfers and hanging on to their core players, and obviously they've put a lot of money in that team as well. And they had a decent year last year, considering it was first year and whatnot. So
I'm going to pick a wild card out of all those. I like Louisville.
Yeah.
I like Clev Lubin. He's one of my favourite players in the country. Like I say, they've done a good job of using the portal and building their roster. Well coached. And I suppose, yeah, the ACC is also very much up for grabs. Duke, Slattery and Mensa. I mean, you're only competing with Miami.
Yeah. You just never know what you're going to get with them, do you? They're such a hot and cold team, Louisville. Some years they look amazing. Then when you expect them to sort of push on, they just regress again. And they're just such a hard team to predict what they're going to do.
I'm not high on Navy. I'd be very surprised.
Well, a lot of people are big on them, and that actually creates a great segue into what our main topic is we're talking about today, which is media days and going through some of the bits that have been said. And we're going to start off with the American. I don't know if I've done this alphabetically or whatnot, but as I say, we're starting in the group of five. So yeah, we've got the American first up, and in terms of bits that have been said there, starting off with what the commissioner was talking about, because all the commissioners obviously say their bit. Tim Purnetti is the commissioner down in the American. He talked quite a lot about the success of the American Conference's rebrand, talking about their social media, their engagement numbers, the success of the divisions, etc., how well they've been doing there. He also talked about fair access going into the college football playoffs. Obviously, they're talking about expanding the playoffs again, and this is a fair theme with a lot of the group of six conferences here. They want fair representation, so if the numbers go up, they want more guaranteed group of five teams to make it in there, which is understandable. I mentioned about the transfer portal being top of the mountain amongst current issues. The stat came out this week that 78% of first team and second team players in football transferred this year. 78%. That's over 3 in every 4 players who was a first or second team player in football last year transferred. Now, they support free player movement, but they want some sort of guardrails in, and this sort of goes to the Save College Football Act, which is going through Senate at the minute, which is trying to create tougher guidelines when it comes to NIL and how easy it is to transfer and whatnot. And then he finished off by talking about promising to protect and defend the Army-Navy game amongst college football playoff expansion conversations. So obviously, the earlier the playoffs start, the bigger the playoffs get, the earlier they start, which moves into Army-Navy weekend. And specifically, if one of them makes the playoffs, you then run the risk of having them playing a playoff game when they're meant to be playing the Army-Navy game. Obviously, Donald Trump has tried to protect this as well, but the American, want to protect it and keep it on its day as well. So a lot in there, but I think the overall thing they're talking about is, they talk about the success of the American, and it kind of goes under the radar how successful the conference has been the last few years, especially a few years ago when it lost Houston, it lost BYU, it lost some of its big players to the Big 12 and had to re-fire up. But the last couple of seasons, the emergence of Army and Navy, the service team is joining like this top echelon of 5-6 really good teams in there, creating for one of the most intriguing conferences there is, and that's no different this year. There's no doubt that in this very turbulent age of realignment and whatnot, the American has done very well to survive and adapt and become one of the best group of 5 teams there is, conferences there is.
Yep. Like you say, a couple of years ago, it felt like the outlook could be a bit bleak. The brightest and the best decided to move on. They lost some of their big teams. But as you say, in recent years, the emergencies of USF have taken a big step forward. about to finish that multi-million brand new stadium, which will be one of the flagship conference arenas. East Carolina stepped up in recent years, put together some good teams. Like I say, the prominence with Army Navy, which I'm with you, always needs to be on its own day. I don't care when the playoffs are. I don't want anyone encroaching on that. It's the only good thing Donald Trump has ever said, in my opinion, is let's have its own game and no one interrupts it. It should be a national holiday. Everyone stay at home and watch Army Navy. But yeah, the American, like I say, huge transfer turnover in and out. Like I say, a lot of these guys see the Americans as a stepping stone to a Power 4 school. That has been proved in recent years. We just saw, like I say, the USF best talent all flock to Auburn, follow its coaches. But the coaches, the recent years, how many coaches have been poached from American for P4? Like I say, helping turn programs round. Like I say, they've done an incredible job of, even short stints, getting their name out there. Like I say, I love guys like, say, some role guys like that are really going to get their chance to shine. Like, say, big programs. Yeah, Americans easily, like, say, my favourite G5 conference. Like, say, and yeah, this season should be not like any other. Say, it's just going to be another high battle duel. Like, say, and the amount of point split in the media poll tells you just how close it is. There is no front runner. The total point split between the top 5 teams is marginal at best.
Yeah, it's like you said, the turnover has been a big thing for them in terms of the American itself. Last year, it returned 49% of its production from its players. This year, it's down to 46. However, you've got 5 new head coaches this year. I mean, technically 5 with Alex Mortensen getting the gig full time at UAB. He was there before, and then you've got 3 second-year coaches. So out of the 14 teams, 8 of them have new or second-year head coaches, which is traditionally when the highest turnover happens on rosters. No more so than at Memphis, that has 71 new players this year with Charles Huff's arrival there. But in terms of the teams who have done best when it comes to returning production, Florida Atlantic, they're the only team in the group of 5 in the top 20 nationally, period, in terms of guys who come about. They got 64% of their team returning, 62 on offense, 65 on defense. You flip it to the other side, North Texas, they're one of just 2 teams in the entire country, I believe, along with Iowa State, which are not returning a single starter from last year. Obviously, they've had an exodus of players. They still get about a third of their production back, but that's obviously from backups and rotational guys, etc. Not anyone who actually started playing last year, but 8 of the teams are 107th or lower out of 134 teams that we've got now in terms of returning production. So over half the division it's suffered some serious whiplash in terms of its returning talent this year. But it just goes to show a lot of players are getting poached, right? Because it is such a good conference, really, and you know, all the coaching upheaval does not help as well. But it's certainly, players are sought after here. Yeah,
like I say, it's American. It's big by name, big by brand, but unfortunately, the financial pull is just not there. It's kind of impossible to keep anyone. The moment anyone, like say, has any like national spotlight placed on them as playing bigger than a G5 school, well, they're as good as gone. Like I said, there is no real way to keep these. Like I say, they're going to have to get smarter, adapt with the patches that are coming in. Like I say, the G5 conferences are really going to have to maximise how they manage to invest in these guys and keep them around. But yeah, 8 out of 14 new faces on the head coach kind of just means it's going to be a total wild card this year. Like I say, the rankings, like I say, don't carry a lot of weight with such huge player turnover and new squads. Like you say, I wouldn't have felt confident casting my vote on any of the first places, if I'm honest.
No, and speaking of that, getting to the rankings here, 5 teams managed to get at least one first place vote in the conference, but it follows as such. So basically the American this year, they don't do official media predictions anymore. They stopped doing it last year, but what one company have done is they've gone round all the people who used to do it, basically all the media members of the teams, and they've done an unofficial one. So basically it is official, but it's unofficial in the eyes of the American. But it's for people who know what they're talking about. And right at the bottom, you've got the Charlotte 49ers. Next up, you've got the UAB Blazers, which is surprising given how well Alex Mortensen did there at 12. You've got Rice. 11, you've got Temple. And Temple had a lot of players in the Phil Steele team last week. 10 is North Texas, obviously after their massive turnover, a new head coach there this year. Number 9, you've got Tulsa. Number 8, you've got Florida Atlantic. 7, you've got Tulane. And 6, you've got Army. Now, your top 5, all teams who garnered first place votes. 5th, you've got East Carolina. They got 1 first place vote, but 188 points altogether. In 4th, you've got USF, who got 1 first place vote, but 199 points altogether. At 3, you've got UTSA, who got 3 first place votes and 210 points all told. At 2, you've got Memphis with 3 first place votes and 234 points. Memphis with their new head coach and 71 new players. Second in the conference. And then at number 1, by a little bit of a runaway here, you've got Navy, who had 11 first place votes out of the 19 that were polled on this, with 251 altogether. And bearing in mind, Navy are replacing the quarterback this year. Blake Horvath is no longer there, although his backup has played quite a bit for them. There's obviously no Eli Heidenreich there. There's no Landon Robinson there anymore. But obviously they've been a good team the last few years, and the media are really fancying them. And then Charles Huffrey with Memphis, he's only just arrived on that Memphis campus with basically an entire new roster, but he's won the Sun Belt in recent years. He did one of the best rebuilding jobs in the country last year. Teams believe in him. And then Jeff Traylor at UTSA, he's a championship winner. He's won 3 championships there. Are you surprised by the rankings at the top there, given some of the teams are in a bit of flux, or what do you think?
I'm not surprised by Memphis, no, because like I say, you look at their roster and how they managed to transfer portal. Like I say, and they've got one of their prominent QBs in the conference. Is it Gavin Owens?
Believe so.
Well, they've got Air Noland. I know they brought him.
They've got Air Noland, and they got the Division 2 Marcus Stokes, the West Florida one, who's been he's like, that's a big QB battle that is, but they've got a good 1-2 punch.
But yeah, Memphis, like I say, funnily enough, was second in last year's rankings as well, and also had 3 third place votes. So they're just a level of consistency. Like I said, Charles Huff is a fantastic coach. Had a big impact at a shortstop where he was previously before he came over here. So I'm not too surprised by that. Like I say, I know USF had some big turnover, but they've brought in some prominent players. Like I say, brought in QBs like, is it Luke Kromenek, the former FSU guy? So I know they've lost their coach, who was one of the prominent G5 coaches. Also lost Byron Brown, lost their star linebacker. Have got a huge turnover this year, but there's a big part of that team, like say Michael Van Buren. Is he the former LSU quarterback?
Yeah, that's a massive gap.
Van Buren, like say Kromenek, that is a really fascinating QB battle. 2 big G5 names here, like say. But yeah, big losers this year, like say though, North Texas. Like say, when you lose 2 players that take away nearly all that production you've got, and then you also have turnover on staff, and you kind of look at what's left now and who's going to pick up the piece and fly the flag. They are one of the big losers this year. Obviously Tulane. But Johnstrom, like I say, Johnstrom was the heart of that team. Like I say, he kept it going with tremendous players. They were last year's number 1, plummeted to 7 this year, but kind of hard to rule them out ever, if I'm honest. Like I say, the way they play. So 7 feels like, say, they could be one of the teams that still carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, in terms of the quarterbacks that are sort of coming in this year. So you've got Braxton Woodson, who's the new Navy quarterback, but he's got like 500-yard games. So you know what Navy QBs are like. They run for the hills. Temple have a new starting quarterback, Jackson Smolik. He's the Penn State 3-star guy who they bought in Obviously, they've got a good receiving core there. They've got one of the best tight ends in the country. They've got a great offensive line. If they can land with him, that would be a great one there. In terms of guys who are back, obviously Army and Cade Helms. Tulsa have Baylor Hayes. UAB have got Ryder Burton. Baylor Hayes had a really good year last year. Cade Helms had a good year for Army after a bit of a shaky start. You would expect them to be back in there. Charlotte have got Connor Harrell, the former UNC quarterback, and UNC been in the news again this week. It's all going wrong there. USF, you mentioned about them. They've got Michael Van Buren. And East Carolina have got Emory Williams still around. Feels like he's been around for 100 years now, but he is still going. In terms of the ones who have, got high upside starters, Tulane, you've got Caden Simonza. Rice, you've got Ja'Cory Brown. North Texas, they've got Taven Jackson there now starting for them, and obviously he's got a really good running back with him. But the two big ones in the conference, you've got Caden Veldkamp at FAU, you've got Owen McCown at UTSA. I mean, two guys who could, potentially draw some draft interest next year. I believe this is both their senior years. But McCown's thrown for like 6,000 yards, and he's got a ridiculously good touchdown to interception ratio. But Veldkamp's been in the high-powered Western Kentucky offense. It's the same head coach at FAU. He's got Easton Messer there with him. Like, you've got a couple of big studs at quarterback in the conference.
Yeah, two QBs there, like I say, that are used to scoring heavily, scoring quickly, commanding strong offenses. Like I say, for FAU, it'll be a questions about defence. But for UTSA, very well-rounded team. Like I say, last year, ran the ball incredibly well, one of your favourite running backs. They'll obviously have another guy in the Alamo Dome. Like I say, what was it? It's like a 21 game win streak they had at the Alamo Dome that ended.
It was even longer. It was a 7-year streak of
like
not losing.
34 something straight home games.
Yeah.
I mean, they protect their home better than most people in the country, so them getting 3 first place finishes based off their home form is no surprise to me at all, led by one of the best QBs in the conference.
Yeah, absolutely they were. Just in terms of some of the bits that the head coaches were talking about, at Army, obviously Jeff Munkin, their team took a big step back. They went from 12-2 to 7-6, but obviously they were talking about how the margins suggested the Army weren't that far from repeating as conference champions. It was very close up at the top. They only lost one game by multiple scores, and they lost 4 times on go-ahead scores in the final 30 seconds of games, which is crazy when you think about it. Obviously, fine margins and all, but they've got a settled quarterback now under Cade Helms. They've got one of the best centers in college football under Brady Small. We know this team is still built really well, Rye. I think he's right to point in the direction of just working the fine margins this year, because losing 4 games in the last 30 seconds, that's some very fine margins that you're talking about here. And obviously they don't run an offense that can come from behind in the last 30 seconds and win. It's not what they do, but they're not far from where they want to be. It's just, the little margins for them.
Yeah, like I said, they're returning some of the most important players at conference. Like I say, one of the top centers in the nation, a QB in another year of experience. They'll always have a hard-hitting defense, a core of linebackers that are incredibly good against the run. Like I said, for them, poor situational decisions, bad clock management, giving up time for those game-winning drives that cost them in the end. So yeah, small margins that you'd expect someone of Jeff Monkton's credit and character to fix them. Like I say, to see him come back to like a 9-win team would not be a surprise at all. They don't have to fix huge things because, like I say, they're a team that they're just not going to change what they do. Until someone keeps stopping it or someone stops it, they won't see any reason to go out of their way to fully evolve.
No, they won't. When it comes to the Charlotte 49ers, Tim Albin, in his second season there, took the surprising decision to leave the MAC champions Ohio to go there, and they had a rotten 1-11 season, and he was talking about a lot the strength and conditioning of his team. They were hit harder than anyone last year. After 6 weeks, they had 12 players, 12 starters ruled out for the season. They got completely rinsed when it came to injuries, and he says they've been focusing on the strength and durability of the team. He says he's now, from last year, they had 14 players who could run over 20 miles an hour on the GPS. They've now got 40. The offensive and defensive line, on average, are 10 pounds heavier now because they were quite late. They were quite light before the squat. The power cleans, everything has gone up. They've focused on making their trenches bigger, and they've also been able to retain a lot more of their players. They've retained 52 players from last year now. And they've had a good portal class. Now, retaining 52 players from a one-win team may not seem it, but it was his first year in charge, and a lot was in there. But obviously, a season decimated by injury, right? I think they've gone about it right, making this team faster, stronger, trying to make them more durable. There's a little bit more stability there now. Obviously, Charlotte used to be a really good team in the Will Healy days, and it's just not happened for them since they've not transferred up to the American well. But hopefully this year, if they're a bit healthier, we'll start to see them come back to the table a bit.
No, their unfortunate timing of joining the American just as it kind of got serious was unfortunate. But I'm with you. They own the ways up. Like I say, last season couldn't have got much worse. Everybody got hurt. Like I say, the team wasn't disciplined enough. It didn't look fit enough. The scores didn't go their way. Like I say, first year coach is bedding in. So this year has to be better. It will be better. I expect to see a much more competitive Charlotte team from season start and across the board. So yeah, I'd like to just think, like I say, they can exponentially catapult that win total up. Like I say, 4 or 5 wins, anything like that, like I say, will be a vast improvement. So yeah, it's a season for them where they just need to, work on the fundamentals, get better, and wins, losses, not that important. They just need to see significant progress in parts. Like I say, they'll take care of themselves, I think.
Yeah, you would like to think so. Moving on to East Carolina and a team on the ascendancy. Blake Correll, I know he's got some big fans here on this pod. He took over for Mike Houston a season and a bit ago. They're 14-5 under him so far, and they've got consecutive bowl wins over ACC opponents. So 2 wins over power opponents in the bowls. They have been rinsed this offseason. They are returning 1 starter on offense, which is wide receiver Brock Spalding, who is pretty good. They lost both their coordinators this year. Their OC went to Ole Miss. The DC went to South Florida with Brian Hartline, who is now there. Now, they have brought in a big name OC to replace their current one, the last one, sorry. They got Jordan Davis, who ran the North Texas offense last year, going at 45.1 points per game, one of the best in the country. But obviously this year for him, it's all about replacing all that lost talent. As I say, the quarterback battle is between Mitch Griffiths, who used to be at Wake Forest. He's 25. He's an older one, was at Texas Tech last year, didn't play. And then you got Emory Williams, who started at Miami in 2023, but there's not a lot of recent starting experience there, right? He's done a fantastic job there, but you're going to see this year, how are they going to deal with such fervent turnover on this roster? It's going to be tough for them, but he's proven he can do it thus far. But yeah, they're victims of their own success, and kind of what the story of the group of 5 when you do well, yeah?
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be a tough year for the Pirates. Like I said, their star receiver, Anthony Smith, went to a draft, lost their franchise QB, Kaden Hauser, to Illinois, which I don't know, somehow feels like a weird sideways move. Like I say, because might get some good NAL, but I'm not sure what Illinois could do for him, like I say, because he had a tremendous year last year. Like I say, some of the best players. And then, you look at 2 guys they brought in. I mean, Mitch Griffiths, that's basically was kind of a running back at Wake Forest. Emory Williams, that's kind of bounced around and knocked around. 2 competitive veterans to try and win the job, but you'd be lying if you said you felt confidence in either of them taking this team, like I say, that had a vocal leader at centre and replicating what they've done. So it feels like on offence, you lose your OC to a well-earned promotion. I'll give him that to Ole Miss. That's a big jump up for him. But trying to get this fiddle to play a tune next year and in such a competitive offence is It's going to be a mighty fine ask. I don't see a third win over an ACC bowl team.
No, no. But, again, I'm rooting for it. He's proven to be a very good head coach for the Pirates, so we'll see if he can outdo that. But obviously, his mind is on resetting that offense this year. When it comes to the Florida Atlantic Owls, 4-8 last year under year one of the Zach Kitley era, obviously one of the newer head coaches in there, and one of the reasons why is, and he's mentioned it himself, they talked about how they're trying to change their offense. So nobody in the FBS threw more than Florida Atlantic last year. They had the number one passing offense in the nation, and good for them. They've got their two main guys back. Caden Veldkamp is back at quarterback. Easton Messer is back at receiver. They're probably the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the group of six, all told. But he's talked about how they need to change their approach this year. They played a lot of 10 personnel last year. Basically every tight end they had got injured, and that meant they were not able to run the ball as well because they had no blocking tight ends to be able to do it, which kind of sent their offense one-dimensional, and that brought in a serious side effect. Turnovers. They were last in the FBS. They turned the ball over 29 times, and they had a turnover margin of -21. No one else was worse than -13 in the nation. That is a very big issue, but obviously they are returning 65% of their production. They've got the most return in production of anybody in the group of six, right? It's a simple fix on paper. They know what they need to do. Kitley is the old OC from Western Kentucky. He's had Veldkamp his career. They love to run the air raid, but they've got to change things. They've got to get that offense a little bit different this year, but that's what they've been working towards. And if they can do that, then you do have the offense to go win the conference potentially this year.
Yeah. I think, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. If they go out there to be the number one passing team in the nation again, then they will finish with another losing record. They are incredibly, painfully one-dimensional. And it worked for Western Kentucky a lot of the time, but that was against some inferior opposition sometimes, where they were just able to absolutely bombard teams. But in the American, if you just rock up with a passing offense and you can't have inline tight ends block and then run between the tackles, then like I say, your quarterback will be a sitting duck against some of the best G6 American defensive lines. So they need to establish the run heavier, stronger, earlier. Like I say, can't control the clock, turn the ball over too much. 4-8 honestly felt like a bit of a miracle at times. But you're returning two key cogs, two of the best players, the best tandem in the G6. You just got to be smarter about how you use them. Can't put all that pressure on them and ask them to perform miracles like they did this year. So it'll be interesting to see how they strike that balance and if he's a man of his word.
Yeah, we will have to see with that. But they need to change. You can't go with a -21 turnover diff in the season. That is going to kill you before you even start, hence why you only won 4 games. Moving on to Memphis, and I love Charles Huff. The confidence and the swagger he goes about with his job is just second to none, and he was no different this year. And out of all the new head coaches in the American this year, he's the one who drew turning heads. He said in these words, "I'm in the best situation possible. I'm in a vehicle that has the resources and the platform and the opportunity to continue to grow. Hopefully, I'll be standing here 1 more, 2 more, or 3 more years. Then I'll be standing in a Power 4 conference with the same logo on, with the same people, the same president, the same AD, and hopefully some of the same players, because I'm in a vehicle that can do that." In a nutshell, this is why Charles Huff left Southern Miss after 1 year, despite doing very well. He believes he's now at a group of 5 team that he can take into a power conference and make a success story, and he is absolutely full of confidence to do so. Obviously, a clutch of American teams went to the Big 12 recently, and they have adapted to life very well there. He referred to himself, now this is the bit I don't like, he referred to himself as the Lane Kiffin of the group of 5, and he's the portal king at his press conference. Now, he does work the portal incredibly well. I think by what he means with the Lane Kiffin thing is he's great at bringing programs to prominence, but I'm hoping the loyalty aspect will be a little bit more for him, because he didn't leave Marshall of his own accord. Marshall got rid of him, despite the fact he just won the Sun Belt with them. And Southern Miss have an NIL budget smaller than a lot of FCS teams, so you can understand why 1 year there and you would be out. But, I mean, he is confident, right? 71 new players, but you said the same with Southern Miss last year. It was a 1-win Sun Belt team. He turned it into a 7-win team. He's got a big mouth, but he backs it up. And, you know, you can see why he's gone to Memphis. He thinks this is a power outfit. And, you know, I wouldn't bet against him being the vehicle of change, as he mentions there, to turn them into a power outfit.
No. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me on paper. I'd probably go right now and say I see them as champions. I have ultimate faith in him. He's now joined a program that has the financial backing to match his ambitions. I feels like when they asked him to be head coach, they must have had a discussion about, yeah, we're not going to stay in the American long. X amount of years and we'll pay whatever it takes. It feels like the next big G6 team to move up to a Power 4 conference. They're a big brand in a big state, in a big city, they're a big fan base, and they've got a great look. Like you say, I just think, like you say, yeah, 2-3 years, like you say, they'll be Big 12 bound or ACC bound. I have no confidence in that, no doubt about that. If he's still in charge or if he's been scooped up by an even bigger program, that wouldn't surprise me either. But yeah, he talks a lot, but like I say, so far he's done quite a lot to back it up, so he's warranted the fact that he can be a bit brash and a bit bold in the way he talks. But yeah, there's no... Yeah, I think he'll do the business again.
I think he will, absolutely. In terms of moving on to Navy next, obviously the preseason conference favourites, Brian Newbury said, I'm not interested in sustaining success, I'm interested in building on success. And that is a very poignant shot about a service team making the playoffs. They ain't happy with being in the conversation for the American. They want to make it to the big show, and he chatted. Obviously, they've lost generational talents for a service team this year. Landon Robinson, Eli Heidenreich, Blake Horvath, all gone. But he mentioned about how none of those three were expected to be stars, and they were able to develop into stars at Navy, noting that it's not the program that it was anymore. It's not just a simple service team that runs a triple option anymore. It's a lot more diverse. It is a lot better with its coaching, and they can turn these service academy players into legitimate NFL prospects. And you know, they can't rest on their laurels. They've got to go out there and do it again, and that's kind of what it's all about, right? It's you know, it's just honest stuff from him, I guess. Like, that is three big players you're losing, and you've got to admit, you know, they're probably going to have to change the way they play a bit until they replace them. But, you know, he's right. They can't sit and mope. They've got to go out there and do it again. They've been very consistent the last few years. There's no reason they can't go out and do it again. And, you know, they've just got to crack on with it.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not the first time Navy's lost a generational QB. Like Keenan Reynolds, for those that remember the mid-2010s, one of the best QBs to see college football in the entire decade. Like I say, what he did for 3 or 4 years was absolutely outstanding. Like I say, he was one of the best players in football. And like I say, I always thought, like, oh, they'll never get someone as good as him. They'll never be that good again, like I say. But they've had ultimate players on both sides of the ball that have made it to pro leagues and have gone on to have short or explosive stints in professional football. And then that guys who've just named could all very well do that, like I say, in this coming season. Practice squads, or like you say, 95s hang around or go to the CFL, UFL. We just named a couple of guys there, and like I say, so for me, if they, like I say, do manage to find some gems that hit this year, come into new starting roles and pick up slack straight away, would not surprise me in the slightest. That's just what Navy's done for years now. And yeah, if you offered them the exact same record and doing that well this year, they'd take it. They'd be happy, but it's not making the playoffs. They wouldn't be satisfied. They would be left with a sour taste in their mouth. He wants to, like say, get that 12 slot, and he wants, even if it's not them, I genuinely think he'd be delighted if Army did it. I think he'd be delighted if any, like say, military school managed to crack the playoffs, because it would be a win for them, Air Force and Army. Like I say, as a collective, they all kind of carry each other on their back, but yeah, Navy is the forefront that's carrying the flag to be the pride this year and the real hope.
Yeah, absolutely it is, and they've got to get on with it. But say they've been consistent, as have Army in recent years, so no doubt we will see them compete again. Moving on to North Texas, new head coach there, Neil Brown, the former West Virginia head coach, and he's under no illusions about his job there. One of two teams in the nation, or one of two teams in the FBS, who aren't returning a single starter this year. Them and Iowa State. Obviously, Eric Morris went to Oklahoma State, took a ton of his players with him, and most of the others left through the portal. Another guy who has got 70 plus new players on his roster, but he has obviously his contacts from the Power 4. He's brought in some very good transfers. His old running back from West Virginia, who's potentially going to be one of the best players in the group of 6 altogether. They've brought in the likes of Aaron Alexander from Arkansas State. He was a star linebacker for the Red Wolves last year, but he's under no, he realizes the scale of the job here, right? This, North Texas and how they finished last year, they should be ranked. They should have a preseason ranking. They should have college playoff odds. They don't, because it is basically a brand new team. But, he's worked in the Power 4. He's got good results in the Power 4. I think over time he'll be a good head coach for them. But I think he's very realistic about what this year's going to be like. It could be tough while this entire new team beds in for him.
Yeah, he's, like as you say, he's experienced, he's been around the block, he's worked with, like say, prominent staff. He's under no illusion that this will not be a quick fix. It won't be an easy turnaround to lose prominent players, big high-profile staff, have huge roster turnover. He knows, like you say, that this is going to be a multi-year job to get them back where they want to be, and to be, like you say, one of those dark horse playoff candidates. And that's fine, because I think this team right now will give him the time. It's got the resources he needs. Like I say, it's not a poor team by any stretch of the imagination. They'll be able to give him what he wants, yeah. And yeah, he's got a good general understanding of, like I say, the portal, how it works, use connections, go out there, scavenge, like you say, who he can and get in. And they should make an impact fairly quickly. So yeah. There'll be a big drop-off, but I expect them to still be incredibly competitive this year and a dangerous team on their day if anyone does take them too lightly.
Indeed. It's going to be a tough year for them, but we shall see how they get on. Moving on to Rice. And Rice last year, 5-win season, they did get to participate in a bowl game, and overall a good year for them. New head coach last year, Scott Abel, and they got him from Davidson. This is the first time he's ever head coached at this level before, anywhere near it. And one of the rare teams that is actually transitioning to an option-based offense. They were pro-style initially, but they've moved to an option-based scheme. They call it the Rice gun choice that they have. And like I say, a 5-win season moving from a pro-style to an option-based scheme is pretty good going. And in a conference where the option works, because Army and Navy have been having success with it. And obviously he's talking about, year 2 now is going to be a lot easier for them. They've been able to get better personnel in for this. As mentioned, Ja'Cory Brown, the former UCF quarterback, he's a dual threat quarterback. He supplanted KJ Jefferson the other year when I was on the KJ train, but great with his feet, a mobile threat who's going to be able to implement the offense better than the quarterbacks last year, who were both holdovers from the previous regime. And getting the option right takes time. You've got to get the right tight ends, the right offensive linemen. You've got to do it the right way. But a 5-win season, right, going in that direction, a change that you don't see very often, is commendable. And maybe you're not going to see the best of Rice again this year towards the top, but this is a transition that will take time, but it's off to a positive start. And you figure the likes of Ja'Cory Brown, he's got a lot of Power 4 experience. He could do well in an option-based offense. If they get this right, they could be, in a couple of years, one of the better teams in the American.
Yeah, I saw some podcast on Twitter that actually ranked the American quarterbacks, and Ja'Cory Brown was in the top 4 of both the hosts of that show. He's highly expected. A lot of them think he's going to be very good, very talented, brings an option, and they think this offense is going to suit him as well. So I'm you. I think it's going to be a great case of, like I say, once they settle in, once they start to adjust and find their feet with it, he could flourish really well and make that quite a fun offense to watch. So, yeah, could take a bit of time. Might not happen this year, but like I say, in the years to come, it could be an explosive, fun, high energetic offense, like I say, that can lead a team to hopefully some positive net win seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Rice, one of those teams you've got to keep an eye out for this year. They start strong. You know, potentially they've got the playmakers there to surprise a lot of teams and be a thorn towards a lot of these teams looking towards the American title. Moving on to USF next, and one of the most intriguing coaching hires of them all, Brian Hartline, who has developed how many wide receivers for the NFL at this point at Ohio State. One of the best positional coaches, period. He's been OC there a while now, and this is an unenvious task for him, Rye. Taking over from Alex Golesh, who took that team from nothing to everything and has re-established a new, bottom line of what your expectations are. The expectations are a lot higher, as you've already mentioned. The new stadium is on its way. New facilities, potential to be one of the best teams in the group of five, and another who potentially might make the jump up soon. They're in a hotbed recruiting area. They could make the jump up to a power program. It's his first time being a head coach. He's really not spoken about much apart from, the kind of personality he wants to embody on the team, the culture he's going to put in, which is fair enough. Like, it's your first year. You don't want to get too gaudy with your promises. You're trying to set your baseline as you are, but this is a tough job for him, but potentially a very rewarding one as well if he gets it right, because, again, they've got facilities that other teams wish they could have at this level.
Yeah, I really like the hire. Like you say, Brian Hartline has had these job offerings for a couple of years now, done tremendous work in Ohio. Comes to a program, like you say, that he's finally starting to invest in his football team. Stadium coming next year is going to be outstanding. Like you say, they've got NIL, they've got the facilities, they've got good players. Yes, they've lost some huge names that have been lured away, but Brian Hartline himself is a very attractive coach. People want to play for him. His style, I think it's going to be another offensive kind of style that's going to lean heavily, like I say, on a potential spread offense. Yeah, I like the fit. I like the timing. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a slow start. Like I say, you can only replacing Byron Brown, who is atop of, like say, a lot of transfer QB ranking portals this season, expected to do potentially big things in Auburn. That's no mean feat. Like I say, I think, like I say, he's worked the portal hard as well again. Like I say, using his connections, and I'm hoping, like I say, that the Bulls hit the ground running straight away.
Yeah, they're going to be a very interesting, case study this year to see how well they do, because they have set high. Like, you've got to be going for the American. That is the standard now. You finish towards the bottom, you'll be under pressure right away. Moving on to Temple. Temple, one of the really intriguing teams in the American this year. First year last year under KC Keeler, he took over a team that had gone 3-9 for 4 years in a row, and to be honest was going nowhere. And he started off really well. They went 5-3, but then they lost their last 4. They finished 5-7, but still it was a huge improvement on what they'd had before. And Casey Keeler's been a winner pretty much everywhere he's been, and he spoke about specifically the service teams, and this is a nod to them. They lost to Army and Navy last year, and he said one of the biggest things they've been trying to do this year is to implement schemes to help defeat the service academies, because obviously Army and Navy, they hit you heavy. You've got to have a lot of durability around you. You've got to be prepared to put in that 150% to outwork them in terms of effort and bits, which they kind of just fell short on last year. And very astute from him to work with the margins, because they could have easily been a bowl team. Hell, 2 more wins, they could have been in the conversation for the American. And just to show the culture he's built there in a year, they didn't lose a single starter to the transfer portal. The only starters they lost were to graduation. They've got 7 offensive starters returning, including, I believe, 4 on the offensive line. The only problem he's got is the quarterback room. Their 2 quarterbacks have thrown a combined 2 passes in college football together. Obviously Jackson Smolik, who I mentioned, and then Rutgers transfer Rajani Shepherd as well. One of the big issues he's going to have, but he's got the likes of Peter Clark there this year. He's going to have plenty of options to throw at whoever they choose, but it was a decent first year for him, Rye Keeler. Obviously a disappointing end, but the American is very cutthroat, and Temple kind of learnt towards the end what it takes from being a mid-team to being a good team, and that's the level they've got to take this year. But he's very astute. He knows the kind of teams they struggled against, and if they are able to fix it, then possibly a good year for them. And big kudos to the service teams who have caused them problems.
Yeah, like you say, we saw progress last year. It's a team that has got skilled position players that are ready to take up the mantle. Very talented. Got a good fan base, like you say. The crowd gets behind them. Last year we compare at times. Very much going to be a case of who wins the job. Two very inexperienced QBs. Do we see them both this year? Feels like we might do. Like I say, it'd be naive to rule one of them out. Like you say, you're really going to have to give them both the benefit of the doubt and let them go. If one of them settles down, then hopefully, like you say, they can have a productive year and build on what was a good but not great first year. Like I say, a good coach that's done a lot of good work in recent years here. I'm hoping, like I say, that the QB that wins the job can hopefully, like I say, then take the flag, be the bearer for next couple of years ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. You would hope he is. He's, a bowl appearance from this year would be big progress. And again, another team who may surprise going forward. Moving on to Tulane. Tulane, no John Sumrall there now, but they own a conference record, 4 straight title game appearances. They are the standard bearer of this conference now, and they have maintained some continuity there. Will Hall is the new head coach. He was offensive coordinator for Willie Fritz for 2 years in 2019 and 2020. He was the passing game coordinator for Sumrall last year at the program. So he's had 2 separate stints at this team now. He knows what this team's all about. He's learnt from some of the best there, and his message is kind of, I'm not really going to change much. We know what the formula for success is here. We might need to tweak a few things here and there just to get us back over the line to win it. But, this is a guy who's come from a little bit of a Dominion, right? He knows what he needs to succeed. Obviously, doing that is another thing, and it's a very big conference with a lot of contenders in there, and it's easy to slip down the way, but they've still got some very good players there, and you would expect, even with the coaching change, they're going to be in and around there because, as I say, they are the standard bearer of the American now.
Yeah, very much. If it ain't broke, don't try fix it. Promote from within, keep the ethos, run the same kind of scheme, do what's been working for the last 4 years, just with different personnel. Like say, one of those teams where I just kind of ignore where they put them in the media poll. They will be there or thereabouts all year. You can't rule out Tulane. Like I say, they're built winners, and it goes deeper than players that could depart and staff that can leave for the most part. Like I say, it's in their DNA. So, yeah, they'll definitely be in the hunt for the championship. Whoever's under centre, like I say, whoever's taking the mantle of those big playmakers that have departed.
Yeah, indeed. Moving on to Tulsa. Another team who are in the rebuilding phase at the minute, but heading in the right direction. They hired Trey Lamb last year. He was the East Tennessee head coach. Before this, he's known as an offensive guru. Now, year 1 looked like 4-8. It's now 4 years since they last went to a bowl game. However, they had wins over Oklahoma State, Oregon State, and Army. And Lamb talking this year about how more settled he's going to be. Last year, he said, they brought in 75 transfers. Again, an entirely brand new team for the Golden Wave. They managed a 4-win season. This year, they've only brought in 25. There are a lot more returners here, and he's got some big areas to build with, including the secondary. You've got Elijah Green back there, Zach Williams at safety. You've got Devin Robinson and J.D. Drew. They're all returners from last year. So you now have something in place. We know he's an up-and-coming head coach, right? This was never going to be an easy job at Tulsa, but given how much turnover there was last year, there was some good statement wins in there. And now, year 2, you're going to look for a bit more consistency, beat some of the teams around you instead of just the statement wins. But it wasn't a bad first year, and Tulsa, again, another one of these teams who could just move into that middle echelon this year on their way slowly up the table.
Yeah, like you say, they know who they need to beat. Like I say, they know who they need to focus on. Those teams in and around them. The bread and butter wins. Wasn't a bad year by their own standards, first time around. So for them, they want to build on last year. Like I say, they want to be more competitive against the big boys. They want to unload on the lesser sides or bottom feeders, however harsh you want to be on some of the others. They want to be in that competitive, like say, 4 to 8 kind of spots, like say, in the hunt for another bowl game. Try get a bowl win under the belt, like saying, yeah, and then work on, like say, being more competitive in a potential title race in a couple of years' time.
Absolutely. They are looking forward there, the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes. 2 teams left. We've got UAB, the Blazers. Alex Mortensen got the job permanently after a lot of uproar when they initially said they weren't going to give him the job. They hired somebody else, and then they unhired them and gave Alex Mortensen the job. But, 4-8 last year, and it was kind of, very, very easy to identify the problems. They were 28th nationally in passing offense. They were 49th in total offense. On the flip side, defensively, they were second to last in the nation in points allowed per game at 38.3. So they've brought in Todd Grantham to be DC. Todd Grantham, who used to be with the Cleveland Browns in the NFL, but he's been at Georgia, Louisville, Miss State, Florida. Vastly experienced there. It's going to be Morton's first technically full season as head coach, and this is kind of like the Tulsa gig last year, right? The Temple one last year, a team that's been in free fall for a long time now, which is going to require a long rebuild, but it does feel like they've got the right guy there now, and obviously he's gone out to try and fix the biggest issue of all, that defense. Got a vastly experienced defensive coordinator in, and he's like, we've got to be more balanced this year, and quite rightfully so.
Yeah, like you say, a vastly experienced coach with wealth of experience from a number of programs under his belt. That's a good hire for them. Like you say, he can bring in a lot of his contacts. He's someone else that can work the portal well in his time there. Understands, like you say, how to get guys that want extra playing time to come for him. Has an idea of what he wants to do. Bring aspects of everyone he's worked under. And a team, that's also looking to put all that together, have a strong year, and start to kick on now and hopefully make a few waves in recent years.
Yeah, hopefully they do. I'm really rooting for him, obviously, his backstory and that. You kind of hope that he does well there. So maybe not going to be the year this year for UAB, but they're heading in the right direction. And then finishing off with UTSA, one of the team's front runners for the division, Jeff Traylor. I mean, how good has he been there? 3 successive championships in a row, 2 in the USA, 1 in the American. Not quite being able to replicate that over the last 2 years, although they've been around there, but the figures are startling. He is, as Ryan mentioned earlier, he's 25-1 at the Alamodome against conference opponents in his time there. On the road in the last 2 years, they're 2-10. So easy to figure out what's going on here. Unbeatable at home, unwinnable on the road, and it's all about consistency for him. Again, you've got to get consistent results. You can't blow away Tulane at home when you have a quarterback who goes 31 of 33 for 370 yards and 4 touchdowns and absolutely obliterate them, and then go to USF, because I did commentary for that game last year, USF and UTSA, and get absolutely blown the hell away. It's consistency all around, and that's what he needs to get back to the top, right? They've got to get those road woes better, get the run game consistent again, get the defense better, learn how to deal with the road pressure and everything. They've got it right at home, but they've got to get it right away.
Yeah, they're a weird team. Like I say, on paper, roster wise, they've got everything right. Like I said, they've got everything they need to be a successful program. It's just a weird mentality thing about being unable to travel, keep up the momentum, play the rate where establish the football they want to play. So for them, like I say, it's a mental thing. It's more preparations for the road games, how they go about carrying themselves, travelling, like you say, and then turning up. So if they get those things right, then they should absolutely be winning the conference. Because at home, as you say, they're unplayable in front of their own fans under their dome when the conditions are right. So for them, it's more frustrating than anything that they've not had more success. They should have been vastly more successful than they should have done.
Yes, they should be indeed. So, I mean, just going through all those, it's like, again, this has the potential to be such a good conference this year. You have the Clutch at the top, who are still going to be good, and then you have your Tulsas, your Temples, your Rices, who are starting to build their way through here. This could be cutthroat when all is said and done this season. It is really not an easy conference to play in whatsoever, especially if you've got a hard non-con as well to start off.
Yeah, like you say, if you line up those big money games in your first 3 or 4 games to, like say, cash in, make a bit of money, but you turn out 2-2 or 1-3 before a difficult conference schedule, I mean, you're already put yourself on a serious back foot. You've already really hurt your chances at potentially making a title. So yeah, you've got to weigh up about sustaining the program financially with the big games where you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you risk getting blown out, or cupcakes, lay up some wins, warm himself up for your schedule, but financially, and maybe just break even on the season. And you've got to be a bit smarter about how they plan their schedules going forward.
Absolutely right. We'll move on from the American and we'll move on to the CUSA now. So we did some preview for the CUSA, so already quite a bit out there for it. In terms of what they went on about, their conference commissioner, Judy McLeod, talked about the Protect College Sports Act, the bill that we mentioned earlier that requires that it's all about the new requirements for NIL, the one-time transfer rules, the 5-year eligibility standard, which is already in place, saying that they back most of the amendments that are going in this bill, although not all of them. They still want to change it, but she reckons overall it will be a good thing for the CUSA, which is agreed. Also talked about playoff expansion. Obviously CUSA and the MAC have never qualified for the CFP. Didn't say whether she would support an expansion or not, but wanted really to clarify if the CUSA and the MAC would get more of a look in if they were able to expand the playoffs a bit. So I think the CUSA aren't going to throw their weight behind it unless more is given towards them. And then in terms of the number of teams in the conference, she touched on there's only 10 this year. Obviously Louisiana Tech left to go to the Sun Belt, UTEP have left to go to the Mountain West. Been asked a lot whether she's happy with 10 teams. I think the overall answer is no, but they'll deal with it for now, and they are going to look for further opportunities to expand, but they're not just going to add any teams. They're going to try and get teams who geographically fit, who fit size-wise, etc. But they do want to move it up from 10, which, you know, kind of seems to be the right thing to do there, right? Their expansion has worked well so far. Obviously, Kennesaw State, Sam Houston, these plethora of FCS teams have made it better. They've continued to lose, but they're going to need to take their time finding the next clutch of teams to come forward. But they've done well so far, so caution is probably the best bet for them.
Yeah. I mean, with all respect to the CUSA, they're not going to get any other G6 team to jump across. I just don't think the conference is attractive enough what they offer, because their chances at playoffs are minimum. It will have to be a conference that relies on FCS programs every time it needs a couple. And yeah, like I say, so far, Delaware, Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, Sam Houston, it's worked pretty well in recent years for them, getting the big boys to come up. And like I say, the likes of geographic powers that are in the D1 FCS will look at the CUSA as a springboard. So I'd expect in the next couple of years, at least another 1 or 2 will have been added. Like I say, obviously it's harder now to get out the FCS, it's more expensive. But the CUSA will definitely help any prospective teams that wants to come up. Because like I say, 10, I always think 12 to 14 is kind of like the perfect number, so they're just a few shy of that right now.
They are indeed. In terms of the media stuff, so the CUSA don't do a pre-season poll anymore, so we can't do one of those. What they do in the CUSA now, though, is they
stopped doing the poll because they all fell out.
Some of them did. There were some saying it was unnecessary and just created loads of furore. Because it was, I think it was like 2 years ago. I can't remember who it was, but one of the teams was really pissy. One of the conferences was really...
Didn't they?
Yeah, they were really pissy about it. And then some teams are, some teams don't. But what the CUSA do now is they do a bowl confidence index. So instead of saying who's going to win the conference, they rank the teams based on who they think is going to make a bowl game. So you can kind of do a power ranking from beyond that. So at the bottom, you've got 3 teams who are sub 20% confidence to make a bowl game. Those are Sam Houston at 10%, Middle Tennessee at 15%, and New Mexico State at 20%. Above that, you've got Missouri State, who are only fancied at 35% to make a bowl game this year, despite the fact they were bowl eligible in their first year last year. Florida International are 7th, only 60% believe they're going to make a bowl game, even though Willie Simmons has never had a losing season in his life. Delaware are at 75%. Kennesaw State, current champions, are at 85%, so some people don't believe they're going to make it this year. The 3 straight unanimous picks for this were Western Kentucky, Liberty, and Jacksonville State, who have a 100% confidence metric that they will make a bowl game. But in terms of the power rankings, it's pretty unanimous there, right? People expect Jacksonville State, Liberty, and Western Kentucky to be the 3 who compete this year. And then you've got sort of Kennesaw State, Delaware, FIU in the pile behind that. And then Missouri State, New Mexico State, Middle Tennessee, and Sam Houston at the bottom. What do you make to those numbers?
I can't say I'm too surprised. Like I say, there's heavyweights in this conference, and then there are teams that are kind of like just treading water. The Blue Raiders and the Bearcats, yes, they have lost their way in recent years. They have really struggled. I know Sam Houston's put good runs together, but kind of yet to put together a complete season to fill you confidence. They just have these good winning records. Like I say, then can offset that with Poole. New Mexico State, like I say, a team that in recent years have shown flashes of trying to go in the right direction, turn things round. Good coaching staff, players. Like I say, they're a team that has been trending in the right direction in recent years. Like I say, Missouri State, a relative newcomer. Like I say, it's still finding its feet. It's a small program, one of the smaller programs in this conference. Like I say, and yeah, they've probably played above expectations since joining. I think they've been pretty well. Kennesaw State, yes, they've blown very cold, but then they've also been raging hot. Like you say, one of the surprise teams in the nation last year. I'd be very surprised if they could live up to the incredibly high bar they've just set themselves. So I get why they're in the middle ground. Everyone expects a bit of regression. And then, yeah, you get the, like I say, Hilltoppers, always there, always have an explosive offense. Delaware came up very well coached, have one of the high-profile QBs in the G6, had some good weapons, so you expect them to carry on. Liberty being Liberty, like I say, big program, can work the portal, well funded, but yeah, have fallen from their mantle as top dog, trying to find their way back. Jacksonville State, like I say, they're just keeping on the good work that Rich Rod started. Like I say, that ground and pound mauling offense that works for them. They've got their style and they know it works. Yeah, so it's very much like you say, yeah, teams with little to play for. That middle factor that could be like surprise upstarts, and you've got some heavyweights to contend, and it feels like the gaps are fairly large between the 3 groups potentially.
Yeah, there's a top 3, a middle 3, and a bottom 4. So yeah, it's kind of they're all aligned on that. These are head coaches who vote on this, by the way. So that's what the head coaches believe. I just think FIU are getting majorly slept on, like a 3 out of 5 chance to make a bowl game. I think that's more, at least a 4 out of 5 chance, but we will see. In terms of the head coaches as well, they also voted their preseason offensive and defensive players of the year. The offensive player of the year went to Nick Minacucci, the quarterback of Delaware. Defensive player of the year went to Baron Hobson, the inside linebacker from Kennesaw State. Don't think you'd argue about either one of those, right?
Nope, Baron Hobson. I mentioned him last week because he was in Phil Steele's list. And like I say, Nick Minacucci. Toss up between him and probably Maverick McIver. That was also an absolutely stellar quarterback in a pipe-pad offense. But I'm a big fan of Nick. Like I say, Fighting Blue Hens came up and he had a tremendous year. Like I say, with his star receiver that's now gone in Duplessis. But Nick's one of the prominent G6, yeah. And he's probably a guy that has some UDFA to day 3 draft potential as a QB3. So he does carry a bit of weight, and like I say, will be looking to solidify himself as a guy that could have his name called this time of the year.
Yeah, absolutely they could. In terms of some bits of what the coaches have said, Delaware head coach Ryan Carty, obviously they're going into year 2 of their FBS membership as they were, and I mean a 7-6 record last year. They beat Louisiana in the 68 Ventures Bowl. They didn't take any time to acclimate to this division whatsoever. As Ryan has mentioned, Nick Minacucci came to the fore, wasn't even the starter last year. It was meant to be Zach Marker. Injuries, unfortunate, but opportunity arose. Minacucci took full advantage of it, and they never looked back. And in terms of what Carty's has been talking about, it's just in terms of now we've set the standard. Now we have to stick to the standard. No regression this year. We have the quarterback. We have a decent amount of returning production from last year as well. They haven't been entirely plundered by the portal, but obviously a lot of it's all about the quarterback, and his play will decide where this season goes. And if you go 7-6 in what year 1 as a starter, right, only goes to figure if you get better in year 2, your ceiling goes higher and you can now compete for the CUSA championship, and that is probably what they should be looking to do this year.
Yeah, like I say, 7-6. Realistically, you're looking at hopefully 9-3. That'd be like a natural progression. It feels like potentially a quarterback, like I say, that didn't expect to start but made a job his own, and now, like you say, he's not going to give up that job anytime soon. Will be one of the hopefully the best QBs. Like I say, that is not a household name in the country this year, and will really, like I say, look to leave his mark and leave that program in an incredible place that he found it in. And hopefully, like I say, that's 9-10 wins and hopefully at least a title berth. Now they're eligible, like I said, that'd be a dream scenario for them.
Yeah, it would be indeed. It's going to be intriguing to see how year 2 figures out for them. FIU now, Willie Simmons took the reins last year. Love him. For me, one of the best head coaches in college football. He walked into a 4-8 locker room. The Mike McIntyre era was terrible, and I always believed in that team. They always had the talent, but as Simmons says, for him last year, he never doubted the talent in that room. It was more to do with the camaraderie and making them work together as a team more. It was unlocking the talent but working together, and they won the Shula Bowl for the first time in like 8 years over Florida Atlantic. They beat Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State, who were both 9-win teams. They had some bad losses as well, but for him, he said it wasn't about talent. It was about getting them to play together as a team. They started slow. They ended really strong. He kept his winning streak intact, and they are in a hotbed, right? They're in Florida. Of course, you're going to get talented players there because you're in a good recruiting area. You're going to get a lot of cast-offs from the bigger teams who are still really talented. It's for them. It's all about molding it together as one. He did that last year, and he'll do it again this year. They've lost a lot, but you wouldn't put it past him to do it again because, again, he's never had a losing season.
No, like you say, he's one of those coaches that he takes what he's given. He finds the ways to work with it. He maximises the portal from all the previous schools and experience to find players that he knows well. They follow him. He's a leader. He's a father of old guys. They will follow him around the country. So, yeah, the bare minimum, you can put them at, pencil him in at 500. But at some point, like I say, it's got to have to be better than that. Like you say, he can't be the guy that always just keeps the team's head above water, keeps them on the straight and narrow. Can he actually make them a serious contender at some point? Like you say, he ain't getting no younger. Like I say, and I'd love to see him win something big, like I say, before he decides to hang them up. So yeah, it's a team that's lost a lot, but he's maximised Paul, brought in a lot of new faces. Let's hope they can have a quick impact.
Indeed. Moving on to Jacksonville State, it is Charles Kelly's second year. They went to the title game last year, but lost after winning the title the year before. And he spent a lot of his time talking about what is the strength of that team, the running game. And obviously Cam Cook left for West Virginia, and he is under no illusions that is a massive loss for that team. 1,659 yards on the ground last year. The best running back in the group of 5, probably, period. And it's all about replacing him this year. Obviously, Caden Creel, it's trying to open up his passing game a bit. It's year 2 for him, although he's a good rusher as well. But he's just spent a lot of time talking about his backup running back room and who can take that talent forward. And he's right? This team will live and die by the run game, and they have got to hope. I mean, Caden Creel's a 1,000-yard rusher that's great at quarterback, but you need a running back to take that pressure off him as well, and he's under no doubt. That's the big problem they've got to solve this year.
Yeah, huge shoes to fill by one of the prominent G6 players in the country last year that rightly took his opportunity to make a big jump up. Like I say, Creel, great with his legs. He takes what a defence gives him with his arm, but this year may have to play a bit more out of his comfort zone. He may have to, like say, stand in the pocket, stand and deliver a little bit more while embedding in a running game. He might have to adjust his style to a bit more pressure off the running game. But yeah, live, die by their bread and butter. Can they get a running game in, get it started straight away and keep the groove in the offence? And if they do, well, winning another title wouldn't surprise anyone, like say, if they can keep that mauling ground and pound style going.
Yeah. Absolutely. Moving on to Kennesaw State next. Year 2 of Jerry Mack, and the best job in college football last year. Probably took over a 2-10 Kennesaw State team and took them to a 10-4 record and won the program's first ever CUSA championship in their second year in the conference. Now, obviously, with success comes issues. 6 first-team All-CUSA selections last year. 4 of them either transferred or graduated, but he took time to talk in detail about Barron Hobson, the inside linebacker who we've mentioned already. He's probably going to go into the Kennesaw State Hall of Fame, but he's talked about how he wants to keep his players. It's developing the relationships with the players in the building, being able to keep guys like Hobson, who could probably have gone to a much bigger team, but he's going to finish off his career there, and that is how long-term they're going to succeed. They'll take these players, they'll build the relationships with them to make them want to stay and have success at Kennesaw instead of leaving. And he's right, for a team like this, you've got to try and keep as much of this talent as possible, and keeping him was a big sign of confidence in him. You look at, Timmy Chang in Hawaii a couple of years ago, started hanging on to their best players. Now you look at them knocking on the door of a Mountain West championship. It's the first step towards creating something big, is keeping your best players, and he rightfully is, talking up the ones who have stayed.
Yep, the ones that have stayed clearly are under the impression that what they did last year wasn't a fluke, and despite those that have left, they trust the staff, they trust those that remain behind, and they think they can defend it. And rightly so. That's the kind of attitude you have to have. You can't just look at it as, like, say, flash in the pan, fizzle out as soon as you get on top. Like, say, now they've set the bar, now they have to be able to reach it and maintain it and set the standard, which is always the hardest thing to do. When you climb the top, to get back and, like, say, fend off the others. But yeah, Hobson, a true leader, one of the stars in the conference, and a member of staff and the coach that's managed to get the best out of him this year. Like I said, now they've got a big target on the back, so we'll see now how they deal with actual pressure. There was no pressure on them last year because it was felt quite unexpected, but now, like I say, their fans will put pressure on him, and the media will look at them like they have to deliver.
And speaking of pressure, that moves us nicely on to Liberty and Jamie Chadwell, where the pressure is starting to ramp up on him there, and quite rightfully, he's pointed towards the areas that kept them back last year. The rushing offense that had been first and fourth in 2023 and 2024 was just 26th last year, committed the 17th most turnovers in the nation, on the way to that 4-8 finish they had. He talked about how the elimination of the spring transfer portal has been a good thing. It's allowed more cohesiveness to be created in his team because players weren't getting poached so late into the off-season, so they've been able to keep everyone from that one portal, which, that's good, because that's what it was there for. But, he's just been focusing mainly on the areas that have let him down. They've got to return to the run-dominant team they are, and they've got to eliminate the turnovers, Ryan, and rightfully so, because it's a big year for him.
Yeah. It feels like what will most likely be his last year. Unless they have a miraculous turnaround. Like you say, he's had a couple of years there now. He can't get back to where he wants to be, and I think, unfortunately, there's a high chance they will move on, which would be sad for a great coach. But yeah, like you say, he knows the areas where they've let himself down in recent years. he's come out, he's highlighted them, which puts more pressure on him to go out there and fix them. He knows what's wrong and he knows what needs to work on. So now there's no reason why he can't go ahead and get it done.
Yep, and talking about getting fixed, that moves us on nicely to Middle Tennessee and Derek Mason, who had a rotten year last year. They started off 1-9, started off the season by getting absolutely blasted by Austin Peay, 34-14 at home, I believe it was. They were the only FBS team to lose to FCS competition by multiple scores last year. But they won their final 2 games, and one of those reasons was their new quarterback, Roman Gagliano. They had a good quarterback before that, but Mason has talked glowingly about Roman Gagliano. He was the first ever recruit he brought to the team. He talked about the rapport he has with him, the experience he got at the end of last year, and now he believes that he's going to be the leader who takes this team to the next level. Again, despite the fact they've just had a very good quarterback for the last 3 years, the belief that this is his guy, it's going to be the stepping stone that's going to send them in the right direction forward. But they've got a lot of stuff to fix at that program, Riot. A good quarterback is just replacing a good quarterback. They need a lot more help on both sides of the ball because they've been rotten under him in his first 2 years. He needs a good third year.
Yeah, like you say, he found consistency at a position, but it's not a position you were exactly disappointed with or failing at. I think, like you say, he put so much attention on a guy in a position where it feels like other areas are neglected. You're asking a guy to kind of carry a program that in the last couple of years has failed to deliver. That's a lot of pressure on a man. Like saying, other people have got to hold up their end of the bargain as well. And it feels like a program as well, that's just going to be trying to paper over the cracks again by good QB play. That's only going to take them so far. So if they try to repeat what's happened, then it's going to be a disappointing third season. And this time next year, we'll be talking about him, like say, coaching for his job potentially.
Oh, I think he'll be gone if he has a bad year
Not
this
like
year.
He won't last that long.
No, I think he'll be gone this year if they don't do well. It probably lasts the season, but I think he needs to be in bowl territory to keep that job. So USA kept 9 of 10 coaches from last year, so coaching's been stable. The only team that changed it was Missouri State. Ryan Beard left for Coastal Carolina. So the new guy in charge now is Casey Woods, the former SMU offensive coordinator, and he has a quarterback battle on his hands. Skylar Locklear, the former UTEP starter, and then Henry Beelin the fourth, who's from Duke. And obviously he's been comparing that to his time at SMU when they had Kevin Jennings and Preston Stone, and they went through that whole rigmarole of trying to find a starter. But eventually they landed on one, and he managed to make a good situation out of that. And he's going to need to do that again here, because when SMU sorted the QB situation out, the team went on in bounds and made it to the fringes of the ACC championship game early. And Missouri State were a good team last year. They've got a lot to build on, but it's sorting that quarterback that's vital, Ryan. At least they've got someone who's dealt with this situation before and dealt with it pretty well.
Yeah, like you say, it's not a bad QB situation to be in. Like you say, Locklear has some experience. Like you say, he's had some intermittent play. Like you say, so there are options there. Like you say, if they want to revert between them, give them both ample playing time, give them a chance to win a job. So they have got options out there, and they should hopefully find someone that can be under centre, hopefully stay healthy and suit their needs going forward.
Yeah, indeed. Like Middle Tennessee, another third-year head coach who's in a bit of bother at the minute and needs a better year. Got New Mexico State, and Tony Sanchez looking for his first winning season there, and he's had the problem of retention for talent. New Mexico State has not been short of good players, it's just been short of being able to retain them. Last year they were bottom 15 in the country in returning production, but this year they've climbed 50 spots, so they've gone from right at the bottom to roughly middle of the table. They've got 3 offensive starters and 6 defensive starters returning, which is going to help them no end last year. no end over the course of last year, and he says it's obviously again the first stepping stone on creating a better team. You've brought in some good players. You've got the Furman quarterback Trey Hedden coming into the building. You've got James Jones, the Delaware State running back, who is a really good addition for them as well. I mean, year 3 rise where you expect the jump forward if it's not been quite to at this point, and it helps that he's got a lot more of his players back there. Roster turnover is what is the end of many a head coach, because you can just never get a program going, but hopefully for New Mexico State, they can rediscover a little bit of the Jerry Kill years. You can win there, you can retain talent there, it can be done, and year 3 is the time for him to prove that.
Yeah, year 3 is usually always make or break. Year 1, get the benefit of the doubt. Year 2, it's okay, you worked out what you need to improve on. Year 3 is like, now you've got to implement it. Show that you've made progress, you understand where the holes are and what your strengths are, and hopefully this year, like I say, it's a team that we've seen in recent years has proved it's able to keep players when their heads get turned, or the sharks, the blood are in the water and they're sniffing around them. They could convince them to stay for at least another year, and now we need to see a coach do that at the same school again this year, kick on and have a good season. Otherwise, year 3 usually is where it gets murky for programs, and you at least get consideration about looking in another direction if you don't see the progress you want.
Yeah, indeed. It's tough to maintain any form of consistency, but hopefully this will be the year for him. Moving on to Sam Houston, and it was a tough year for Sam Houston. Phil Longo, it was his first season last year. They lost every single starter in the portal last year, so he didn't have any starters to start last year. They didn't have a stadium last year either. They had to play 70 miles away from campus, and he kind of just was talking about that point because they went 2-10 when they were 10-3 the year before. So they basically had 12 away games last year. He had 58 guys in the portal when he first got onto campus. He had to hire all his staff, and said there was just no stadium, no nothing. It was a very tough year for them, and it showed in their results. But year 2, obviously things are a lot more settled now. He's kept all but one coach. All his portal work was done by January the 23rd. They've got a lot more of their talent returning this year. Again, we talk consistency. It's very hard to do anything in a year, right, when you've got no home advantage, you've got none of your players in, you've got a ton of transfers trying to make something of it. It wasn't a good year, but hopefully this year we can see the Sam Houston we saw 2 years ago, because they're a damn good team, and again, you can win there. Phil Longo he's got pedigree, so hopefully we get to see the better version of them this year. Now they're at home.
Yeah, I mean, I gave Phil Longo the benefit of the doubt. Like last year, just screw it up, throw it in the bin. He got crapped on. Taking the job straight away, finding out, oh yeah, by the way, I hope you're going to get comfortable driving a couple of hours every single week to play and practice because you've got no facility. How do you attract players when you tell them they're going to play 70 miles away from where the campus is, and some of them don't drive? Like, who's going to want to come play in a team that is basically nomadic? Coaches that are going to move halfway across the country and then spend hours away from their families commuting to practice, or like say game days turn into whole weekends. It's just not good. Can't build a team, a roster, a coaching staff like that. So he was working with like bare bones skeleton crew. So this year for me is year 1.
Yeah.
And I'll judge him just purely for what it is this year. Like I said, so much stuff worked against him this year. I'm absolutely guaranteed they will be better this year. More settled. Like I say, there'll be in a better routine. The players should be happier. They'll look better on game day. Like I say, having a more schedule, like I say, better preparation, less travel. They'll be fresher. Like I say, and able to retain some players from last year and add his own. Then it's definitely a recipe for more success this year. Like I say, good, well-respected coach.
Indeed he is. And then finishing off on a bit of a lighter, humorous note in the CUSA, Tyson Helton and Western Kentucky. He's been there. This is his 8th season, and they've been, pretty good in that time there. Obviously, they've not been the beacon of stability. They've mainly been at the top of the conference more often than not, but they've not gone on and won one, which remains his only elusive thing there. But He's had a lot of trouble there, Tyson Helton has, in terms of his offensive coordinators. They're so good, they keep getting poached. The new offensive coordinator is Bodie Reeder. He's been at Middle Tennessee the last few years, but he is their 7th offensive coordinator in 7 years. And you've had guys in there like Ben Arbuckle, Zach Kitley, who's the FAU head coach now. Helton's been talking about his his off-season tradition, which is looking for a new offensive coordinator because he has to do it every year, and talking about guys who see the game the way he does because he's an offensive mind. They play the air raid there, but he says he's looking for new offensive coordinators. Like, he's looking for a new one now because he knows Bodie Reeder might not be there in 12 months' time. And it's funny. It's not good for him at the same time because it's tough for your quarterbacks when you've got a new OC every year and you've got new schemes in, etc. But he's done a very good job in Western Kentucky, right? The air raid's been one of the best offenses in football for some time now, but it is difficult for him when he's got a new OC every single year to create something a bit more diverse in what it does, because you just don't have time to implement it before the next one's up.
Nope, I'm with you. A program that it's not been the flag bearer, but it does have a modicum of consistency. They've always been fun, explosive. Like I said, they've been up there in statistical rankings. They've sent players to the NFL. Like, they're how a team should be run. A coach that's, like I say, had a huge number of staff turnover in his time there because they play a flashy, like I say, fun brand of football that is eye-catching. It does draw the attention of opposing guys and teams looking to fill their staff rosters. Yeah, so it's a team that I'd like to see, like I say, more consistently go all the way and really threaten that potential, like I say, playoff, like I say, be that number 12, like I say, it'd be a huge shock if it came from the CUSA, but it's a good brand. Like I say, it's had its moments in the spotlight. He's a great coach. Like I say, he's built something there, a bit of a legacy. Like I say, they're always up and around there. They just don't seem to get there and make that final jump. Like I say, usually because, like I say, they're somewhat dynamic, one-dimensional football sometimes does hurt them. But it's the only way they know, and nothing's ever going to change that. Even when they bring in different staff, they always kind of stick to their goals and, like I say, how they want to set the team up.
Yes, indeed. And that is the CUSA. We're going to move it on now, and we're going to head to the MAC, the Mid-Atlantic Conference, although it is not the Mid-American Conference, but it is not mid anymore. It is a coast-to-coast conference. You've got UMass on the east, and now you've got Sac State on the west as a football-only member. And talking about their commissioner and what's going on there. Again, it's Steinbrecher over there. He's talking about the Protect College Sports Act. He hopes it will be passed because he feels it's completely out of control in terms of NIL, the portal, and the MAC, probably more than any other conference, is affected by this. Teams are just decimated year on year, especially with the proximity of the Big Ten, the ACC, a lot of big programs in the area where it's not too far for these guys to have to transfer. They're always getting rinsed, and obviously the commissioner wants some protection to his teams and what they're going on about there. And that was sort of the main issue he was talking about. He talked about the college football playoffs as well. Again, been the MAC, they've not had a member in there before. Again, trying to bring in conference representation, wanting more opportunity for the MAC to be able to go and get a place in this new expansion as part of the new rules. Again, I think a lot of these Group of 5 conferences won't support it unless they get more of a chance to do so. Kind of the same as what the CUSA is right now. But they need a more stable portal to be able to let some of the teams hang on to their better talent, to be able to field more competitive sides. And he's kind of right in what he says, right? It's not much, but there are issues that plague the MAC, and it is they just lose more players than anyone else. And you see all these draft picks, all the guys who've come out of Florida State from MAC teams just again and again and again. not coming through from MAC teams themselves. It can be done. Toledo have shown that you can have high-level draft picks and play in the MAC, but it needs to happen on a more widespread scale for them, and protection in the portal and with NIL is the only way forward for them.
Yeah, right. I mean, the MAC financially is just bested by, it feels like, nearly all of the G6 conferences. It just feels like it struggles to bring in the revenue. I mean, it feels like they play their games on a different day just to try put themselves out there to bring in revenue. Like, say, Maction, like, say, playing on Wednesdays and Thursdays, where a lot of other conferences don't do that, just because they want that kind of separate themselves from others, where they want to, like, put themselves out there where they're not clogged up in airspace. Kind of tells you a lot about how little, and like I say, they struggle for viewership. Like I say, apart from like local fans, like I say, a lot of, like I say, those neutral fans aren't flocking to the MAC. Like I say, players struggle to stay in conference. The best ones get scooped up. Can't compete financially in the NIL. Like I say, really do struggle to pose a proper playoff berth kind of team. Even the champion is someone that, like I say, will be fun, like one more often not overlooked here. It is a conference that really does struggle to keep its head above water when with all the other teams, like I say, in the conferences we've named, and other teams, like I say, they do feel like they're always, like I say, an afterthought, which is sad.
It is, because Maction is very fun and you get some really good games in there, and again you get a lot of talented players. You've got some hotspots for recruiting: Ohio, Michigan, Indiana. You know, there's a lot of good team, players who don't make it at the higher teams, who these teams can hoover up, but as soon as they show talent, boom, they are gone. In terms of the preseason poll here, this is from the MAC football coaches. They are not allowed to vote for themselves either. Again, there's clear hierarchies at this point. We've got 5 teams who got 100 plus points in the voting here, although only 2 teams got first place votes, and then it's kind of just a smorgasbord of teams in the middle with a few at the bottom. And surprising, I mentioned they're now a coast to coast team, and obviously the coaches not digging the coastal teams, thinking they're going to struggle with the amount of travelling, and that UMass are ranked 13th with just 25 points assigned to them here. And 12th is Sacramento State, the Hornets, who've been an FCS powerhouse the last few years with 28 points. Obviously don't feel they're going to travel well, and they've had coaching upheaval and whatnot. Obviously no Brennan Marion now. He's gone to Colorado, which is a shame. I would like to have seen him in the MAC, but it is what it is. Ball State are at 11 with 34 points. Akron are at 10 with 52 points. So Akron quite far away from the bottom now. They're moving in the right direction. Bowling Green 9th with 59. Kent State at 8 with 64. Given the flashes have been awful the last few years, they're getting love. Eastern Michigan are 7th with 76 points. Buffalo at 6 with 81. Sorry?
Don't usually see Buffalo that low.
No. Victor Snow gone to NC State. That's knocked at least 20 points off for them. 5 teams with 100 plus. At number 5, you've got Central Michigan. The Chippewas getting a lot of love this year with 101 points. Number 4, you've got Ohio, the Bobcats with 107. At 3, you've got Toledo with 115 points. Obviously, no Jason Candle there anymore. It's a new regime with the Mud Hens, not the Mud Hens, the Rockets. The Mud Hens is the baseball team. And the top 2, number 2, Miami of Ohio, the Red Hawks, have 4 first place votes with 134 points. And then at the top, people expecting them to go back to back with 9 first place votes. You've got the Western Michigan Broncos with 138 points. So 5 more first place votes, but only 4 points more in the standings. Point to a fact that Miami are more consistently mocked in the top 2, where the West Michigan, they got a lot of first place votes, but the people not voting for them in first, probably the other Michigan teams, are putting them quite low. But the usual suspects up there are Ohio, Miami of Ohio, Toledo and Western Michigan for sure, and then a clutch of teams on the outside looking in. Maybe not a surprise there. Anything that does catch your eye?
Like I say, it's good to see Akron, like I say, a good way off the bottom. Because like I say, football in recent years has not been overly kind to the Zips, and they've often been I mean, people have been very unkind about Akron in probably last 5 years and their football program, how it has really struggled and been at the very bottom of a lot of statistical categories. But in recent years, they've worked really hard to improve their image with neutrals, help themselves on the field, work the portal. So it's good to see them doing that. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people wondered why Sac State joined the MAC. Like you say, they've kind of made a rod for their own back. I'd love to know how many air miles they're going to rack up this year. Brendan Marion, like you say, great coach. Like you say, now got the promotion, moved on to Colorado. It feels like that team has been left behind now. Like you saying, what remnants he's leaving behind is going to be interesting to see. But yeah, like I say, top four are the so-called usual suspects that we always kind of expect to be there. Western Michigan being top's no surprise to me, just purely because Phil Steele had so many Broncos in his list, especially with the QB and a lot of their good players. They made up a prominent large part of that MAC list, so it does not surprise me in slightest to see them there.
No, like you say, it's kind of is a little bit of what it is. Like you say, Buffalo not usually up there, but again, they've been rinsed by the portal. Central Michigan were up there. I'd like to see the Chippewas do well this year. I know Junior has a soft spot for the Chippewas, so hopefully they get to do their bit. But obviously, Toledo have been the powerhouse, but it's interesting to see now no Jason Candle there. Was it all him, or was it the program? Because there's still some good players there, but there's no doubt that he was the driving force behind the success they've had.
Also, it's weird to see the MAC about Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
The Huskies are a prominent program, and they're always in and around there, all competitive, so it is weird to see them not there.
Yeah, the MAC is, for all its thing with the portal, it's never affected by realignment. Usually, they added UMass, but they've not lost anybody.
Don't move a lot
for a long time. And, Illinois, the Huskies, back in the...
out in West.
Back in the Rocky Lombardi in that days, Northern Illinois, good program. Like, it's a big loss for them. So, but yeah... I'm guessing the whole Sac State thing has to be the travelling right, because it has been a good program. Regardless, they are putting a lot of money into that program. We thought they might go to a power conference, and you've got to figure if that's just 1 year, then this time next year that they're not going to be that low. I guess they're just sort of factoring in they're going to have to learn a lot about travelling to the Midwest to deal with this.
Yeah, like you say, they're just going to be finding their feet this year. I think, like you say. Time zones, getting their bodies right, planning their weekends, get their heads right, like you say, make their plans properly. It's going to take a bit of an adjustment. Like you say, it's going to be tough on a lot of the players. Some of the players they're going to work out by this time next year. It's not for them. This cross country traveling all the time is not for them, and they'd like to play either closer to home or closer to school. So that's where it takes good staff to be like, yeah. We'll work out who's down for this and who's not. Or if Sac State made a mistake, how quickly can they undo it? Like I say, that's very hard these days. So yeah, they're going to have to adjust quickly and on the fly if they want to be competitive and prove that they can travel and keep up their momentum that they built in, like I say, last couple of years in the FCS, where they were a very strong offense and a well-coached, well-managed team.
Yeah, and just to kind of show you what happens to these MAC teams, looking at returning starters this year, Toledo are worst in the conference. They've got one starter returning from last year, although a lot of them have gone to UConn. You've got Bowling Green, who are only returning 3. 2 of them are tight ends as well, and then you've got Kal-El Pascal, greatest name in college football. That's 3 starters. Sac State only have 4 starters returning. You've got who was the other one who was really struggling with their returners? UMass has got 6, but they were a poor team last year, so maybe again not the best. And again, only on offense, they got 2 tight ends coming back. It's hard to keep the offensive players. Ohio, 6 starters coming back, only 1 on offense. Buffalo, 6 starters coming back, only 2 on offense. I mean, you've got nearly half the conference there, right? That are not even returning 2 of 11 starters on offense because, their best playmakers just go elsewhere. And again, it kind of just goes to show how tough it is to be able to keep this together.
Yeah, like you say, It's not like say it's not a team thing. It's not a problem thing. It seems to be bigger than that. It's a conference wide thing of trying to keep them in, which they find very difficult. Like I say, whether that's because of players get frustrated with lack of airtime, NIL options, like say potential draft projections and getting eyes on them. Like I say, they're very easily swayed, and which yeah, it hurts the conference year in year out, where the best and the brightest just seem to just drift on, like say, without batting an eyelid, and no one seems too bothered by it because now they've just accepted it. Now they've just been like, yep, these players are going to come and go. We don't have all that much to offer them. It's hard to keep them up here, so sometimes it feels like they don't even try. Like I say, it's tough sledding in the MAC.
It is indeed. Right. I'm moving on because there's not in terms of all the head coaching interviews and that, there is not a good article out there that kind of is able to put them all into one little thing for me to go through. So, and plus, we're going on quite a while and we've still got a couple of conferences to do, but that is your overview of the MAC this year. In terms of up next, we've got the Mountain West, and the Mountain West undergoing significant changes to its alignment this year, specifically with the Pac-12 reinventing itself. You've lost the likes of Utah State, Fresno State, Boise State, San Diego State, and you've had to bring in new teams. You've brought in Northern Illinois from the MAC, and you've brought in UTEP from the CUSA. You're going to be going with 10 teams this year. And again, the commissioner was talking about how they would like more teams in the conference. They're at 10 currently. They want to move that up again to 12. But again, you've got to wait for the right teams to become available. Obviously, North Dakota State coming up to the conference is a big get for them, because that might mean that a lot of the other Dakotas follow in times to come. I would certainly expect that be the way the Mountain West goes from here, right? Because you have lost a lot of big teams. Boise, Fresno, San Diego, these have been good teams. The Mountain West has been good in recent years, but there's no doubt they've been hurt by the alignment waves this year, because UTEP and Northern Illinois, as this moment in time, are not two of the bigger names you'd want to replace the teams that you've lost. But there is an opportunity for them here to move some of the Ohio Valley lot up from the FCS and re-establish that at the FBS level.
Yeah, like I say, with no disrespect to NIU and UTEP, they don't move the needle. They kind of just plasters on big holes left behind. But getting North Dakota State gives you a great chance at getting Montana State, South Dakota, or South Dakota State to come up with them. If you can get the Montanas to come, like say, which are mountain teams, to the Mountain West, or you get, like say, the Jackrabbits to agree to come up in a year or two, they'll be quality additions. If you can get a handful of them, they will help reshape and rebuild the new look Mountain West in a couple of years. Because yeah, the disparity, NIU and UTEP, they just simply are not going to compete in the Mountain West. Not with who's at the top of this conference right now. It's top heavy, and those two will be, unfortunately, simply moving up the number this year. Maybe all their time there they could be.
Yeah, indeed. And it shows in the pre-season rankings as to what these teams are thought about. So, as I say, 10 teams. Ranked at number 10 is UTEP, and ranked at number 9 is Northern Illinois. So the two new boys to the conference are expected to finish in the bottom two. At number 8, you've got Nevada. At 7, you've got Wyoming. At 6, you've got Air Force. At 5, you've got San Jose State. And then your top 4, who'd have believed it with some of these teams in there?
Yeah.
Hey?
You won't be happy at 4 or a bit low.
No. At 4, you've got Hawaii. At 3, you've got the other new member, North Dakota State. The Bison are ranked 3rd. At 2, you've got New Mexico. And at 1, of course, you've got the Rebs, UNLV, who've been there for the last 3 years now. And I know a lot of, Fresno State, Boise State, all that have gone here, right? But New Mexico and Hawaii been in the top 4. They're rightfully there. Like, Timmy Chang has taken the Hawaii from being rock bottom of the Mountain West, let's say, quite frankly, into a legitimate contender year by year by year. And New Mexico last year under Eck for the first year were absolutely fantastic, and they're returning a lot of their talent this year, and you would expect them to get better. These are some of the biggest success stories in college over the last couple of years, Ryan. New Mexico and Hawaii rightfully in that Mountain West conversation, along with the big boys from the FCS we'd expect, and of course UNLV are going to be up there as well. It's shaping up to be a fascinating top of the table fight this year.
Yeah, this is probably the most interesting, I think, G6 conference. So like I say, you've got a blend of old and new. You could make a case to say Hawaii should be higher. I'd probably put them above the Bison, if I'm honest. I'd flip them. I'd be very comfortable, like you say, we're returning one of the best QBs in conference, one of the best coaches. Hawaii have used the portal well. Like you say, New Mexico, the recent years, like you say, they've just been getting everything right. They've been improving year on year, doing better at retaining their players, doing a good job of keeping their coaches there. Obviously, the Bison bring a wealth of winning experience. They very rarely lose players to the portal ever. They get them in, like you say, as freshman or sophomore, and a lot of them stay right through to declaring for the draft or junior, senior. The Fargo Dome is incredibly hard to play in. Their home record is just simply tremendous. And despite losing head coaches to more prominent roles in recent years, they've simply not slowed down. And then, yep, UNLV, top of the shop. Like you say, Dan Mullen's success story. Like you say, had a lot of high-profile transfer players in the portal last year. All came in, did incredibly well. He got a ragtag bunch to be like a conference champion. Lose their QB to the portal, so what do? They go get another one who potentially could be even better in Jackson Arnold. We've seen flashes of him. That's an incredibly good player, and now he just needs an opportunity to show his talents. Like you say, and you look at, like you say, the SB Nation's like projected players of the year. Yeah, a few of them are UNLV. Like I say, that goes a lot to how that program has been built. Yeah, money's gone into it, like I say, and experience and wealth of coaching, but it definitely sits top of the shop for a reason to defend their title.
Yeah, they've just been built into, and it's funny to think that before, sort of 5 years ago, we didn't talk about them in this vein. Like they would
talk about UNLV 5-6 years ago.
No, and then all of a sudden they've just turned a corner and now they're the cornerstone. That just shows if a team is not popular today, in 5 years it could be the cream of the crop. So don't ever rule any of them out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And even the teams on the fringe, you would expect Air Force to get better this year. Air Force had a lot of turnover last year, but yeah,
I mean, for a couple of years they set the standard for military football.
They did, and you've got to figure now they're going to be back. Wyoming have had their time in the shade as well. Wyoming were a front runner for many a year. You figure they're going to come back. Nevada is slowly rebuilding as well.
How many big players have passed through Nevada in the last 4 or 5 years? There's been some huge names that have gone there to make their career.
Yeah, and they've kept some good players this year. They've got LaBarbera. They've got a couple of good offensive line pieces who would get in draft. Love. It could be. Top to bottom, be a great conference. UTEP have got Scotty Walden there. He's a good ascending head coach, so it might take his time, but the New Look Mountain West is certainly not going to be dull.
Isn't it? If anyone could upset the apple cart, it could be San Jose State.
Yeah.
Because in recent years, they are no mugs. And their offense, like you say, has been incredibly good. What was it, Danny Scudero last year?
Yeah. And then Nick Nash the year before that.
Yeah, they've had some incredibly huge household names at receiver. Like I said, was it Walker Agate at QB? Like I said, there's some big playmakers. That offense is stacked.
And they've got a good head coach in Nuuma Tolo, so they've got a guy who knows the conference inside and out and knows what he's doing. So that is in terms of that. In terms of some of the rankings for players of the year, etc., Jaden Thomas has been ranked Offensive Player of the Year, and Jackson Eck, the linebacker from New Mexico, Defensive Player of the Year. Again, I don't think I'd disagree with either of those. They've both been fantastic for their teams. Obviously, Mika Aliardo would have been very close for Offensive Player of the Year, but Jaden Thomas, we talked about him last week. He's statistically going to be one of the best running backs UNLV's ever had, and probably a very good NFL player to boot as well. But I wouldn't disagree with either of those picks.
Yeah, like I say, Jackson Eck is the heartbeat of the Lobos middle. he is an extension of the coaching staff and played incredibly well. And yeah, spoke about Jane Thomas last week, will be one of the most prominent, explosive, all-purpose yardage guys this year. Definitely already on draft scouts, netbox, already on their boards. Another big year, he'll finish top 5 in most categories in UNLV history, leave as a legend, and like I say, has got a chance to be a potential sneaky draft pick as a gem next year in 2027 class.
And his new quarterback there, Jackson Arnold. I mean, what a pick up for UNLV that is.
Very well last year.
Colin Dreyer, yeah.
Yeah.
But that system they've had going back to Marion's days just seems to suit the quarterback too. But Jackson Arnold's a hell of a get for them.
He had flashes at Auburn but failed to deliver, win the starting job, had niggles, but this team is kind of built perfectly for a transfer quarter QB to come and succeed.
Well, Colin Dreyer had the same problems in the power, didn't he, initially? Like he was talented but never kind of put it together.
And who was he at Virginia?
He was at Virginia Tech. No, Virginia. He was at one of the Virginia sides.
Yeah, I think it was a Cab and he struggled, didn't he? Like, he said he lit up the Mountain West with his legs and his arm.
And now he's gone to Nebraska to destroy his career. Yeah. But it is what it is. But in terms of other ones, offensive breakout player of the year has gone to Scott Ray Humphrey from New Mexico. You'll remember him, the Montana State running back who went for like 1,500 yards a couple of years ago. He had his first year last year, went for 350 yards and 5 touchdowns. Had a good start to the year, then got hurt and didn't quite see it. But, I mean, New Mexico, this is just another insanely talented player New Mexico have who ready to come back this year. I think, again, rightfully, there might not be anyone better than him if he comes good this year.
No, we saw a sample size last year, like say, where he eased his way into the team, but this year should look to pretty much probably take over. Be their lead man. He's going to lead them from the front.
Absolutely, he should. And then on the defensive side of the ball, defensive breakout of the year is gone to the edge, Landon Thomas at UNLV. He is a true sophomore this year. Played 212 snaps last year, got a couple of sacks, couple of hits, so started to see, and he's very good against the run as well. 6'3", 255, built pretty well really early in the start of his career, but those Rebs teams, those defensive lines are usually pretty good, so he's figuring to break out there. Offensive transfer of the year went to quarterback Jackson Arnold. I mean, again, if he hits, right, there's going to be no better QB in the conference, and it probably won't even be close given the, his pedigree.
No, right. If he does hit, he will definitely take the conference by storm. And I mean, if he does as well as we think he could be, it could be a brief stint, like I said before, he's bouncing back to try win the glaring headlights of the Power 4 again. Whether that's a mistake or not, we'll find out with Calandria this year. If he should have stayed at UNLV, which I fear, when all said and done at Nebraska, I think he might have wished he had done. We'll see if Jackson Arnold takes the same route if he's lured away by 1 year's success.
Indeed. And then defensive transfer of the year goes to defensive back Isaiah Buxton of the San Jose State Spartans. They picked him up from San Diego State, which, given their record of sending guys to the draft in recent years, has been pretty good. He's a corner, true freshman last year, played 150 snaps for the team, couple of PBUs, forced fumble as well on the team. But you don't put it past those San Diego State corners, right? Good get for San Jose to keep him in conference. I mean, 2 of them got drafted last year and 1 the year before that. It's not a bad system to build from.
No. They've built a bit of a reputation now, which helps them, like say, bring those guys in. They're gonna, if they can start to make a name for themselves as a landing spot for guys to show off their talents and know the scouts are looking at who they're producing next, and they'll continue to have a pipeline, a conveyor belt of guys that are happy to come over to that part of the country into the Mountain West.
Indeed. And then in terms of potential freshman of the year, so offensive freshman of the year goes to the wide receiver Jesse Harden of UNLV, and defensive freshman of the year to cornerback Joey Thomas III of Nevada. Obviously not these guys taking a snap yet, but these are names to watch out for in terms of freshman of the year goes by. Another receiver at UNLV, DB at Nevada. They are recruiting well there. They are not short of talent. So, keep a close eye on that Nevada team. And then coach of the year They believe it's going to be Jason Eck from New Mexico. I figure it's either going to be Jason Eck or Timmy Chang. Whichever one of those two breaks the glass ceiling and gets to the championship game, if either of them do. But I figure like it's between them two.
Yeah. Like I say, if one of them can upset the apple cart, like I say, make the title game, win or lose, like I say, you'd feel pretty good confident about giving it to one of them too, if they can make them jump to contender status.
Indeed, right, and that is your Mountain West lineups there. Moving on to the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is technically a group of team this year. It is part of the group of 6. It is the new conference, and it is a little bit of a mismatch. The 2 holdovers, one team from the Sun Belt and then the rest from the Mountain West, and 8 teams this year. It's a little bit of an odd slate between them. This isn't going to look right for a couple of years, but you've got Colorado State, Oregon, Utah, Washington, Fresno, San Diego, Boise State's in there. I mean, you've got basically all this. I think every team has a state in there. Boise, San Diego, Fresno, Washington, Texas, Utah, Oregon, Colorado. At this minute, I have no idea what it's going to be. New conference, a mishmash of teams. I don't know. It's a complete wild card this year. Obviously, Commish talking about it's year 1. They'll be adding new teams. But at this point, it's like it is nice to have the Pac-12 back, but it is not a power conference yet. It won't be for a while. And yeah, a complete wild card this year.
Yeah, like I say, it's a mishmash of teams. It's 2 teams that were kind of like Hercules holding onto the pillars, stopping them crumble. Like I say, when everyone else kind of departed. You kind of feel for Oregon State and Washington State. Like I say, they had torrid times when the Pac-12 dispersed, but they now found homes again. Like I say, there's some decent additions there. Like I say, Texas State have been pretty good in recent years. Fresno State, Boise State, San Diego State were top of the pile, and they were competing in the Mountain West for a while. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting addition to these. Like I say, right now, it's going to take a while for them to find their feet and we work out who's the wheat, who's the chaff. But there's some big players in there, like you say, so it's going to be interesting to see. And also, as like you say, the network that picks up the new one, how the TV channels do, what figures rating like.
Yeah, again, like this order of like finishing and stuff like that, no one knows right now, so it is a complete unknown.
Practically less because you're just judging them on how they did in their own conferences last year, which
does not. Yeah. So the Pac haven't had media days this year. So what I've gone off is the Mountain West actually did one for them because obviously most of the teams are from the Mountain West. So they've gone through the Mountain West media or the previous media to get through most of these. So they have done a prediction for the finish table and for some of the players to watch out for this year. So, from people in the know, at the bottom is Colorado State at number 8. At number 7 is Oregon State. At 6 is Utah State. At 5 is Texas State. At 4 is Washington State. At 3 is Fresno State. San Diego State are at number 2 and Boise State at number 1, expected to go and win it in year 1. But the number that jumps out to me right there, Bri, 5 years ago, Oregon State were one hell of a football team. They were competing for Pac championships. Now they are ranked 7th of 8th. And I know the years haven't been easy while the Pac has been dissolved and they've been in wilderness. They've been a terrible football team, but to be below the likes of Utah State and that from people in the know kind of just shows how far the program's gone down in people's views. This was surprising to me.
Yeah, and it's one of the only ones that's returning its quarterback.
Yeah.
So it's got a guy in it, and I mean, yeah, Malik Murphy was not good last year, but the year before that at Duke, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I was convinced, like you say, that he should have stayed at Duke, and that backed me. I definitely feel validated by that point because he dropped an absolute stinker for the Beavers and had a rotten year, but he's incredibly talented, like you say. So yeah, but like I say, that team has just really struggled. They've barely been able to keep any of their players on the roster in recent seasons. Obviously, like I say, because the conference is blown up. Like I say, struggled financially, NIL, coaching staff. So yeah, it's kind of been a bit of a tornado, a bit of a disaster for the Beavers in recent years. I'm hoping now a bit of stability, they'll right the ship. So I'm not surprised to see them that low now, but I expect them to make quick jumps and strides up this conference in recent years. Now they've got, hopefully, some bit of normality.
Yeah. Now, obviously, Washington State faring a bit easier. Texas State at 5. Texas State have been a very good team in recent years, but they kind of just hit a little bit of a bump, and, people not fancying them at the moment either. But I look at teams outside the top 4 here, and I think if someone's going to, crash this top 4, I feel like Texas State have to be the outstanding candidate here. The Bobcats are a good team.
Football, they've got a good home record as well. Like I say, they're not the easiest player to go to, so it's definitely, like I say. But yeah, you mentioned Wazoo. One of the hot players I'm looking forward to seeing in the whole country this year, Caden Pinnock, their transfer FCS star sophomore quarterback. I am fascinated to see what he does and makes the jump up to the Pac-12, because like I say, he's a big name. And like I say, and had an absolutely outstanding FCS season. Like I say, when he was a true freshman at UC Davis. So yeah, you won't find many more interesting players to look at in the new Pac-12 than him.
And he did. So in the preseason awards, Caden Pinnock did land Offensive Transfer of the Year. So they agree with you. They're all looking forward to seeing Caden Pinnock there at Wazoo. To be honest, Washington State got both Transfers of the Year on offense and defense, but Caden Pinnock was top there. In terms of Offensive Player of the Year, though, that has gone to Brad Jackson, the Texas State quarterback. So as a freshman last year, he had a good year. Threw for 3,200 yards, 21 touchdowns, just 7 interceptions. 3 of those he tossed against James Madison. Just 1 multi-interception game for a freshman. He had a pretty damn good year. And if he keeps getting better, then Texas State and the way J.G. Kinney plays football, he could throw for 4,000 yards this year in that conference. I think, again, rightfully, probably amongst the front runner for Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, like you say, it's a good coach with a quarterback he knows that's an explosive, powerful offense. They're a good team. They're on its same wavelength. It's a conference where there's defenses out there that have potential to be poached.
They do indeed. And then in terms of Defensive Player of the Year, we've had the Virgin Mary. This year we've got the Virgin Morgan, Jaden Virgin Morgan of Boise State. This is his it's his 5th year in Boise. It's his 4th year as a starter. 18 sacks and nearly 100 quarterback pressures over the last 2 years. 15 quarterback hits as well. 3 forced fumbles. Even got an interception in the books as well. He's 6'3", 260 pounds. You never bet against a Mountain West edge rusher. Right? These guys are tough. They're clever. They're technical. And, he's another off this list here. Going to get to do it against maybe technically some bigger teams this year. But, he's been a model of consistency for them the last 2 years. One of the best rushers in the group of 5. 6.
Yeah, like they stacked good years back to back this year. Like I say, hopefully gets to do it on a nice big TV network with all the cameras on him. Should hopefully go out for a bang. Like I say, Big 12 and Mountain West kind of known for their pass rushers. Sent multiple guys to the draft in recent years, so they've built a bit of a... they're known for, like I say, these gritty, hard-nosed guys that can set the edge, and yeah, he definitely fits in that mould again.
He does indeed. Offensive Breakout Player of the Year has gone to Sayer Gaines of Boise State. Ashton Jonty's predecessor. He went for 812 yards and 8 touchdowns last year. Had his 24 wiped out by injury, but bounced back in a good way. But you figure probably going to have another pretty good year. 50 missed tackles forced last year, 19 runs of 10 plus yards. He's a big play guy, and Boise love to run their football, right? So probably not surprising. There was a lot of hype over him last 2 years ago, and he's finally starting to deliver on it.
Yeah, because Maddox Madsen is okay, but like I say, without a proper running game, we know what Boise are and what Boise aren't. So Sayer Gaines hopefully stays healthy all year, should get a big workload. Like I say, we'll put up some really big numbers.
Yep, and then they've got the Defensive Breakout Player of the Year candidate as well, who's Jaden Mickey, the cornerback, the former Notre Dame high recruit. This is his 5th year. First year as a starter last year. He did see some decent snaps at Notre Dame. He's 6'1", 182. Had 5 pass breakups last year. Gave up targets on 64% of his receptions. Got a tackling issue which he needs to solve. But outside of that, I mean, he's got good pedigree from Notre Dame, second year as a starter. Again, the Boise team still remains stacked, right, all across the board.
Yeah, like I said, they lost big players like Ty Benefield, but they were never going to keep all of him that long. He's played so well in recent years, but they've gone out, they've hit the portal well, they've brought in talent, and they always keep the core of what is a very strong roster. And when you've got one of the best coaches, in my opinion, in the country, in the game, like you say, it's very hard to deny or rule them out any year.
Yeah, it is indeed. As mentioned, Caden Pinnock got Offensive Transfer of the Year for Washington State, and they also got Defensive Transfer of the Year. Linus Zunk, the edge rusher from Vanderbilt, has come over. He's had a few years in the rotation at Vandy. 5 sacks in the last 2 years. He's 6'6", 262 pounds. Really good build. Gonna get to do it a little lesser level of competition now, so maybe we'll see something big from him there. Offensive Freshman of the Year went to Rashawn Jones of Boise State, another receiver coming through those ranks, and Defensive Freshman to Jermaine Santana Diaz, the defensive back from Colorado State, and Spencer Danielson of Boise, of course, getting the Coach of the Year early doing. And moving on to our last one. It's been going a little while now. We're on to the Sun Belt. Always the Sun Belt Fun Belt. One of the ones that we like the most. So starting off with the Commissioner Keith Gill chatting about certain topics there. Certainly welcoming Louisiana Tech, who they controversially poached from the CUSA. Don't think that one's over as of yet now, but he was talking about how they add much needed juice to the room, especially with Texas State leaving. Obviously adding Louisiana Tech when you've got ULM and Louisiana already, it means you've got a lot more in-state rivalries you're bringing back to the board, which is going to provide a lot bigger games for them. Even if Texas State is a big team, are now gone. Again, talking about the Protect College Sports Act, seems to be in favour of it for the most part. But in terms of transfers and eligibility, all that sort of stuff, he says the Sun Belt stands behind it staunchly. And then talking about CFB expansion, he's quite happy with it, but the Sun Belt do get a run into the CFP, so there is a chance that 2 Sun Belt teams could make it if they went further. So he didn't say whether he would be pro or anti, but I think they're leaning more towards pro because the Sun Belt do get a good look in there. I mean, one in, one out. It's good for them to get a new Louisiana side in there. I mean, things are peachy in the Sun Belt at the minute. There's a lot of good teams, a lot of good competition, a lot of good players. And yeah, they've got some good representation there, right?
Yeah, makes sense to try bring a team in, create another rivalry in state, try, like you say, build 2 teams, like you say, that can get something going, keep some series going. Like you say, the East, like you say, has controlled things in recent years, so adding another team to the West, like LA Tech, makes sense. Try and make the whole conference more different. Like I say, we've still got divisions. It's a conference that we still love having divisions in, like I say, because it keeps things interesting. They don't look like they're going to go away from that anytime soon. They don't give any inklings that they will. So yeah, they stick to their guns. Like I said, in recent years, it's working well for them.
'Tis indeed. And speaking of, 2 conferences, you've still got the East, you've still got the West, and they are, for the most part, very competitive. So we've got to do the rankings by division. So we're in the East division, and how things change here. Ranked at the bottom, I should say 4 teams got first place votes here, although 3 of them only got 1. The eventual winner got 11. No doubts for guessing who's at the top of this pile here, right? Because they're probably going to be up there. But Georgia State are rock bottom with 17 points. Appalachian State next with 43. Then you've got Coastal Carolina with 45, although they did get a first place vote, I'm assuming from their own head coach.
Who voted in first place?
Their own head coach, probably. Georgia Southern were in fourth with 53 points, also getting one first place vote. Marshall in third with 67 points, but didn't get any first place votes. In second, and this warms my heart,
Oh, that's nice.
Old Dominion, 73 points and one first place vote. And if I had a vote, I'd vote them at the top. But Ricky Rahn has done an amazing job with the Monarchs. They are ranked second here with 73 points. But at the top, with 11 of the 14 first place votes and 94 points altogether, is James Madison. And yes, they might cycle through head coaches, right, because they keep getting rinsed, but they just keep winning and winning dominantly.
Yep. Lost Chesney, one of my favourite coaches in the country. Like I say, lost their star QB, Alonzo Barnett. Like I say, I'm pretty sure they lost his backup. They lost pretty much everything that wasn't nailed down. The kitchen sink has gone. But it speaks a lot that the conference and the media still put them first by a heavy way despite all the losses, because they know they will bounce back and they will not be stopped. Like I say, it's just a train that keeps on rolling despite whatever obstacles are placed in their way.
Yeah, it's they just find a way. They have ever since the Signetti days. Recruiting's just because people know they can go to that team and that they can just get a much bigger gig. Not far on from that, these guys just go up to the Power Four and dominate. So they know it's just one of the best pipelines in the entire Group of Five. So I'm not surprised they are ranked up there. But I mean, shout out to the Monarchs, right? Like Old Dominion. Nobody thought anything of them. Back to their CUSA days, they were alright, but no one gave them a second look. And Ricky Rahn, the job he's done. Year in, year out, we talk about the linebackers, you know, especially the defensive players they have, but they've had great quarterbacks, they've had great receivers. Like, he's turned that program very quietly into one of the most consistent Sunbelt programs, and he doesn't have a lot to work with there. And year in, year out, just makes do with all the losses and just carries on winning for the most part.
Yep, don't complain about, like say, the lack of availability to retain guys, pay staff what they deserve, keep staff. Like I say, it's always a conveyor belt, but he just gets up, he does the job, he delivers, he tries to get them at least a bowl game every season. Like I say, he just sets the bar, and there's a level of consistency now. And like I say, now they've definitely earned a lot more respect nationwide, and they've got a lot of neutral fans on board in recent times.
That Coastal Cal and App State are in the bottom three shows you the strength of that conference, because 3 years ago those two would have been right at the very top. Yeah, and App State used to be right there at the top.
Nobody could touch the Chanticleers.
No. And App State, Joey Aguiar, players like that, just, you know, fearsome.
Persons, when they had their running game, they used to be dominant running team. Like I say, yeah, they used to dominate.
Yeah, it just shows you how, you know, tough it is in that East Division now that they're in the bottom three, and teams like Marshall and Old Dominion have overtaken them in the West Division. And this is sad. At the bottom is Louisiana Monroe with 19 points. Brian Vincent, they didn't have the best year last year, but to immediately be slammed back down to the bottom, he's made a good program there, and I expect them not to finish there. South Alabama, second bottom with 31. Southern Miss, third bottom with 47, although they were one of three teams to get a first place vote, which is confusing. Louisiana Tech, fourth with 55 points. Arkansas State and Butch Jones at third with 69. Number two is Louisiana, 75 points and one first place vote. But then unanimously at the top, we've got Troy, 96 points and 12 first place votes. So there's no denying here, right? They're expecting a Troy James Madison championship game this year, and they're not really expecting anyone to challenge for it. But less contenders in the West, but still good jobs nonetheless. Arkansas State on the periphery, you know, that could maybe their year, who knows? But two very clear favourites.
Yeah, like I say, last 2 or 3 years, it's felt like, say, the Sun Belt has been made up of 3 teams max that kind of rotate in and out of power. But like I say, right now, with where the Sun Belt is, yeah, Troy, defensive powerhouse, just scores what they need to. James Madison scores heavily, scores quickly, scores, like I say, and then just, like I say, asks their defense to just just keep the teams respectable style. They play different brands of football in different divisions, and yeah, the media seems to think they're on another collision course for each other.
They do.
Look at West. I don't know. I can't see LA Tech. They've been pretty average to poor in a couple of that handful of recent years. Did they jump here straight away and be that competitive?
I don't know.
About the Bulldogs.
Yeah, South Alabama haven't been the same since Kane Womack left, and ULM are much better than bottom. They're not finishing bottom. There's no chance. Honestly, Southern Miss on the third head coach in 3 years. That's going to be...
Miss just can't keep anybody around.
No. So I'm shocked they've got a first place vote in there, because Charles Huff took 18 players with him to Memphis, and that would be 18 of the better players going to Memphis as well. So, it's... that's a confusing one to me. But yeah, Troy and James Madison expected to certainly be at the top. In terms of the preseason accolades, preseason offensive player of the year has gone to Carlos Del Rio Wilson of Marshall, the QB. Over 2,000 passing yards last year at 67% accuracy, nearly 700 yards as a rusher as well. Was at Florida and Syracuse, but when these high recruits find their ways down, right, if they get good, they look great, and Del Rio Wilson's he's an example of this. A high star recruit didn't find his way, is now playing at a level where he can dominate.
Yeah, Green have always had good offenses. They've always found a way to, like say, use the portal or scoop up these guys. Like say, they've had some good commanding guys lead that offense. Had a good year last year. We'll look to build on it this year. And like say, Marshall finding their feet now. They've seen James Madison, they've sparred with him a few times. Would like to think maybe this is the year they can have their number. Like I said, in third place, without a first place vote finish, that should upset them.
Yeah.
Like I said, the fact that Coastal Cal got a first place vote and Marshall don't makes absolutely no sense to me. But they need to go out and prove, like I say, that's rubbish.
Yeah, absolutely they do. Carlos Del Rio Wilson, offensive player of the year. Defensive player of the year. Now, if I asked you to pick a team and a unit that this might be from, you'd probably get this. But unsurprisingly, it's
linebacker.
A Troy edge. You were close. I can kind of give you that one. But Donnie Smith, the defensive edge from Troy, he was a JUCO player 12 months ago. Made the move to Troy last year. 11 sacks, 13 and a half tackles for loss, a forced fumble, and 44 total tackles, and he's built like a proper edge as well. He's like 6'5" and 260, something like that. Sorry, 6'4", 230. Like he's a little lighter, like these Troy edges are, but they've just nailed him year after year after year. Right? You see guys like Javen Solomon in the league, in the NFL, playing well. Like it's just a system that. This is a JUCO kid and they've turned him into a star in a year. Some things are inevitable, and probably going to have another year like this again. And we'll talk about him as a legit draft prospect next year.
Yeah, like you say, Troy are great. Maximising those small school pass rushers, like you say, and then giving them a platform in one of the best defences in the country outside of the Power Four. Like I say, they've built a system that helps them get in quickly, helps them find their feet quickly, and then they'll produce with a chance at a title game every year. It's kind of a great path to make you get your way to pro football and get your name out there.
It is indeed. And then I think they just did a special teams player of the year, who's the punter from Troy, Evan Crenshaw, was a finalist for the Ray Guy last year. And that, I believe, is that. Those are your group of 6 conferences, their media days, some of what the coaches have been saying, some of the rankings, some of the breakout player of the year candidates, etc. Obviously, a lot of information still to put out there, but that's hopefully a good base for you all there, and we'll leave it at that because we've been going a while now. We'll look at the power conferences next week probably, along with something else, because as I say, the Big Ten is still doing their media days at the moment, but what it says with these rises coming out and that is college football is nearby, just 30 days away, and listening to some of these reviews and that, like, the thing you take away is the group of 5 conferences could be very good this year overall. Like, there's a lot of tightly contested. The American's going to be tightly contested. The Mountain West's going to be tightly contested. The Sun Belt sure as hell will be through the 2 conference champions. Hell, even the MAC probably is as well. It might be the most open the Group of Six has been in years. There's very few standout teams who you think, yeah, I'm going to nail them on to win it. I have no idea what I'm going to do for predictions in a couple of weeks.
No, like I say, and it's only a good thing. Like I say, it feels like in recent years you could probably put like a handful of teams in the playoff CFB like Group of Six playoff team, but this year, like I say, Pac-12, Mountain West, American, like I say, Sun Belt, they've all got a credible champion. Like I say, it's not just, oh, it's Boise, oh, it's UNLV. No, like I say, you've got James Madison. Like I say, you've got potentially Washington State, a big program that carries national weight. Like you say, a San Diego State, or like you say, a USF, a UTSA. So we're going to have to start to now configure with the revival of the Pac-12. Like you say, with the expansion of the playoffs, no doubt coming. Like you say, we'll be very soon at 2 G6 spots, because Pac-12 will be back. Maybe it won't wow the world this year, but give it a year or two. Like you say, it'll be back to where it was. Like you say, and it was always a fun, well-liked conference. It'll get there again.
It will do indeed. Right, is there anything else you want to mention before we get out of here today?
No. I have seen news, like I say, the Tennessee linebacker Arian Carter has been suspended for breaking the rule for hiring an NFL agent while he was still technically a student that had not graduated, who paid for his flights. That is against the rules.
Oh.
They'd signed with an agency before the pre-draft visit.
Oh, you're not allowed to do that?
No.
So...
You can get legal advice from an agency, but you can't be on the books, you can't be a paid client. And then he came back to school, so now they've suspended him. If you do that, you can't go back to school.
I mean, fair enough. You're missing the SEC non-cons. Tennessee usually play scrub schedules anyhow, don't they?
First game is going to be his Furman.
Oh, well, there you go then. He's going to be...
And then Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Well, I love Georgia Tech, but I think Tennessee are probably going to be like,
yeah,
we should probably handle those two.
Yeah. The SEC have scrub non-cons for the most part. They very rarely have anyone challenging, and then they always have that cakewalk fixture right at like the second to last game of the year against an FCS team just to rest all their players up. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to matter too long, but I guess that's fair. You know, I guess he should have thought, am I going to the draft or not first? And like you say, you could...
can't really hire an NFL agent and then go back to school.
Yeah, That kind of meter says, well, you can't come back now because you've hired an agent. Like, that should be done and dusted. So, yeah, it's a pain, but, you know, it is what it is. We will see. Right, appreciate everyone who has listened in this evening. Hopefully you've... garnered a lot of information from what's been going on. We've been able to put a lot out there, and you know a bit more about some of these teams going forward for the Group of 6. And then, as I say, we'll do the Power 4 next week with 30 days left. That means we've got 7, 14, 21, 28. We've got 4 shows left before the start of the season, so we need to do season predictions. We need to do team to watch list. We need to do... we've got a lot of stuff we need to do. So... and then we've got the Power 4 Media Days to do as well. So we're heading into that fun part of the year now. I swear I'm missing something. So, I don't know. I just can't wait to be back. Have you started your season predictions yet, Rye? Or...
I've got my award winners nearly done. Because we always do, don't we? We've got the major award winners, and then we've got the title game predictions and the winners.
Yeah, we've got the we've got quite a few bits in there. So, and I'll have to dig out last year's results and see how we did, but...
we did terrible.
We always do terrible. It is what it is, though. That's how unpredictable college football is. Someone gets an injury, you know, some quarterback gets hurt, then a team you think's going to do well just completely and utterly shits the bed. So it is what it is. As mentioned, for upcoming shows, I'm not actually sure what we're doing on the next main podcast. We'll be back on Monday anyhow. You know we will be. So come join us for that on the main show. I'm sure we'll have something fun planned. We'll be doing training camp review because we'll have had some training camp. So join us for that. Me and Ryan will be back in a week. We'll look through the power conferences. We might do some schedule. We might do our pre-season to watch teams as well. I'll have to try and figure out a schedule to make sure we get it all filled in time before week 0. And then hopefully I'll do a Q&A at the weekend. I am working all weekend again, but I will try and fit in some time before I go to work one evening to get one done, because we haven't done one in a few weeks, and it is the time of year now where we could probably benefit from doing them. So yeah, that's everything that's coming up from us. You can find us at Roar of the Lions UK, Discord, Twitter, all that good sort of stuff. You know where we are. If you want me and Ryan to do anything college football wise, just put a comment in the videos, whatever, messages. You know the drill. We'll do the research for you if you've got anything on your mind. Cheers for Ballmarker, Gavis Concon, who's been in the building, Grandizer as well. Yeah, we'll see you again very soon. We'll see you on next week's College Pods. Thank you, Ryan. One Pride worldwide.